The black envelope arrived on a Tuesday. No return address, just Ava Kingsley's name, written in crimson ink that looked disturbingly like blood. She sat alone in her penthouse suite, 40 floors above Manhattan, watching rain streak down floor-to-ceiling windows as her trembling fingers broke the seal. Inside, a single photograph, her father's grave, fresh soil still mounded with a red X spray-painted across the headstone. 3 words scrawled on the back, "Your next heiress." Ava's breath caught in her throat. Ice spread through her veins as her heartbeat thundered in her ears. This was the 4th threat this month, each one more personal than the last. She crumpled the photo, her knuckles white with tension, and crossed to the bar. The whiskey burned as she swallowed it straight, hoping to dull the constant fear that had become her shadow. At 32, Ava Kingsley was worth $4.8 billion on paper. The reclusive daughter of industrialist Maxwell Kingsley, she'd inherited Kingsley International Group 2 years ago, after her family's private jet crashed in the Adirondacks. She alone had survived, though sometimes she wondered if that was a blessing or a curse. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, "The board meeting tomorrow. Don't show up if you value your life." The board meeting where she was supposed to present evidence of massive financial fraud within her father's company. Evidence that implicated several high-ranking executives who'd been like uncles to her growing up. Ava's gaze drifted to the balcony 40 stories above the unforgiving concrete. Her therapist would call it passive ideation, the thought of simply stopping. Not actively planning to end things, but wondering what it might be like if everything just went away. The weight of secrets, of danger, of loneliness, all lifted in an instant. She poured another drink, this one larger than the last. The amber liquid caught the light, glowing like fire in the crystal tumbler. One more night, she told herself. One more night to decide whether to run or fight, to live or die, to betray her father's legacy or honor it. Tomorrow would determine everything. Tonight, she just needed to make it through the darkness. Nathan Reed's boots squeaked against the worn linoleum as he wiped down the last table at Maggie's diner. Rain pounded the windows, turning the neon open sign into a blur of bleeding color against the night. At 36, his body felt twice that age, muscles aching from 10 hours of security work at the loading docks, followed by his night shift at the diner. "Daddy, I'm hungry," said 7-year-old Hamey, looking up from his dog-eared math workbook at the counter. His dark curls needed a trim, falling into eyes that were the same deep brown as his mother's had been. "Just a few more minutes, buddy. Then we'll grab something." Nathan checked his wallet when Jaime wasn't looking. $12 in change, barely enough for their bus fare home and a couple of value meals. His stomach clenched with a familiar anxiety. End of the month was always tight, but this time was worse than usual after the rent increase. The bell above the door jingled, and both Reed men looked up. A woman entered, expensive leather boots clicking against the floor. She wore a tailored black coat that probably cost more than Nathan's monthly rent, her face partially hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. Despite her obvious wealth, something in her posture spoke of exhaustion, of a weight carried too long. She moved like someone expecting a blow. Shoulders tense, eyes scanning exits before she'd fully entered. Nathan recognized the body language from his military days. This woman wasn't just tired. She was afraid. "Coffee. Black," she said to Maggie behind the counter, not making eye contact. As the woman settled into a corner booth, Nathan noticed a man in a dark sedan across the street, camera pointed toward the diner windows. His security training kicked in. Something wasn't right. The man's posture was too rigid, too focused. Not paparazzi, something more professional, more dangerous. "Hey, Mags, I'm going to take my break now," Nathan said, untying his apron. "Hamey, stay put, okay?" Jaime nodded, too absorbed in his homework to argue. The boy's tongue poked out the corner of his mouth as he concentrated on a particularly difficult subtraction problem, a habit he'd inherited from his mother that still made Nathan's heart ache 3 years after her death. Nathan slid into the booth across from the woman, keeping his voice low. "Don't look now, but there's a guy photographing you from across the street." The woman's head snapped up, fear flashing across features that were striking despite their pallor. Her eyes, a startling shade of green, widened in alarm. "What, where? Easy. Dark car passenger side. Been there since you walked in." Nathan kept his posture casual, as if they were old friends catching up. "You in some kind of trouble, miss?" Her laugh was brittle like glass on the verge of shattering. You have no idea. She started gathering her things, hands shaking slightly as she reached for her purse, a subtle tremor that spoke volumes into Nathan's trained eye. Wait, Nathan said, reaching out but stopping short of touching her. If you leave now, he'll follow. Let me help. Why would you help a complete stranger? Suspicion hardened her voice. She'd pulled back, creating distance between them, her shoulders squaring defensively. Before Nathan could answer, Kami appeared at the table, a paper boat of French fries in hand. The child's presence was like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. Immediate warming impossible to ignore. Dad says I should share when I have extra, he announced, placing the fries between them. You look sad. Do you want one? The woman stared at the child, momentarily speechless. Something in her face softened almost imperceptibly, like ice beginning to thaw. A crack in a carefully constructed wall. She took a single fry, her expensive manicure, a stark contrast to the humble offering. Thank you, she said quietly, a voice gentler than it had been with Nathan. I'm Jamie. I'm 7, he declared, climbing into the booth beside her without waiting for an invitation. What's your name? Nathan started to call his son back, but stopped when he saw the woman's shoulders relax slightly. The terror in her eyes receded, replaced by something that might almost be called tenderness. I'm Ava, she said after a moment's hesitation. Just Ava, Jamie asked, cocking his head. Like Madonna or Cher. Are you famous? A ghost of a smile touched her lips. No, not famous. Just Ava. Nathan studied her more carefully. There was something familiar about her face, though he couldn't place it. High cheekbones, an aristocratic nose, those remarkable green eyes, features that suggested old money. Good breeding, a world entirely separate from his own. I'm Nathan. Nathan Reed. Former military police, current jack of all trades. If someone's following you, I can help. No strings attached. Avia took a sip of her coffee, weighing her options. Her gaze was calculating now, assessing him like a chess player evaluating a potential move. Why would you put yourself at risk for someone you've never met? Nathan's eyes drifted to Jamie, who was now happily munching on fries, oblivious to the tension. Let's just say I believe in stepping up when someone needs help. Doesn't happen enough these days. The diner door jingled again. A man in a dark coat entered, shaking rain from his umbrella. Nathan tensed, noticing how the man's gaze locked immediately on Ava's booth. His hand moved slightly toward his waistband, a tell that made Nathan's combat instincts flare to life. Friend of yours? Nathan asked quietly, already shifting his weight to position himself between the newcomer and Ava. Ava's knuckles whitened around her coffee cup. Definitely not. Nathan made a split-second decision. Follow my lead. He raised his voice slightly. So anyway, Lisa, we'd love to have you over for dinner tomorrow. Right, Jamie? Jaime looked confused for only a moment before playing along with impressive quickness. Yeah, you can see my Lego spaceship. It's got 3 rockets and an alien laboratory. The man in the coat hesitated, frowning as he surveyed the diner. His eyes narrowed as he studied Ava, then Nathan, then Jamie. A muscle in his jaw twitched. Frustration or uncertainty, Nathan couldn't tell which. Nathan casually draped his arm across the back of the booth, leaning in as if sharing a private joke with an old friend. The posture was deliberately protective, a clear signal to the watcher. When he leaves, we'll wait 5 minutes, then I'll walk you to your car. Ava nodded almost imperceptibly. The blue sedan on Palmer Street, 3 blocks east. The man lingered by the counter, ordered coffee to go, and left after one more suspicious glance around the diner. Through the window, Nathan watched him cross the street to the parked car, speaking into what appeared to be a radio or phone. He's calling for backup, Nathan murmured. We don't have much time. They waited in tense silence, making small talk for appearance's sake. Jaime, oblivious to the danger, happily dominated the conversation, telling Lisa all about his science project and his pet goldfish named Captain America. He was supposed to be red, white, and blue, Jamie explained earnestly, but he's just orange. Dad says he's still special, though. Your dad sounds very wise. Ava replied, her voice warming as she engaged with the child. Nathan observed the transformation with interest. With him, she remained guarded, wary. With Jamie, something genuine emerged, a glimpse of who she might be beneath the fear. When the coast seemed clear, Nathan gathered their things. Jamie, buddy, we're going to walk Ms. Lisa to her car, okay? It's raining pretty hard. Outside, the rain had eased to a steady drizzle. Nathan kept Jamie between them, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. The street was quieter than usual, most sensible people having sought shelter from the weather. Puddles reflected the neon signs from surrounding businesses, creating pools of electric color on the wet pavement. They'd almost reached Palmer Street when headlights flashed behind them. Nathan's muscles tensed, adrenaline flooding his system. Down? Nathan shouted, pushing both Ava and Hammy against a storefront as a dark sedan accelerated past someone leaning out the passenger window. There was no gunshot, just the distinctive click of a camera. "They're just taking pictures," Nathan asked, helping Ava to her feet while checking Jamie for injuries. The boy looked startled but unharmed, clinging to Nathan's jacket. "For now," she replied grimly. "Tomorrow, who knows?" Her gaze lingered on Jamie, something like guilt flickering across her features. "I never meant to put a child in danger." They reached her car, not the sedan she'd mentioned, but a nondescript Honda. "Rental," she explained, seeing his confusion. "I switch them daily." "Whoever's after you, they're professionals," Nathan observed, feeling the first stirrings of real concern. This wasn't just some paparazzi harassment or an angry ex. The coordination, the resources, the methodical approach, all pointed to something far more serious. Ava's hand trembled slightly as she unlocked the car. "Yes, and they have resources I can't match." She hesitated, rain glistening on her dark hair, like tiny diamonds. "Thank you, Mr. Reed. You too, Hammy." She reached into her purse. Nathan raised his hand. "We don't want your money." "I wasn't," she began, then stopped. "Yes, I was. Sorry. Force of habit." She looked at them both, something unreadable in her expression. "How do you do it?" "Do what?" Nathan asked. "Live so openly, without fear." Nathan laughed humorlessly. "Oh, I have plenty of fears, just different ones than yours, probably." "Like what?" she asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. Nathan glanced down at Jamie, who was jumping in puddles a few feet away. "Like not being able to make rent next month. Like what happens to him if something happens to me." He shrugged. "The usual stuff that keeps working folks up at night." She nodded slowly. "Different cages, same prison." With a last small smile for Jamie, she slipped into her car and drove away. Nathan stood watching until her taillights disappeared, an inexplicable sense of loss washing over him. Like he'd missed something important, some opportunity that wouldn't come again. "She was pretty," Jamie observed, splashing back to his father's eyes, "but really sad." "Yeah, buddy, I think she was." "Are we going to see her again?" Nathan ruffled his son's damp hair. "I doubt it. Come on, let's get home before we catch cold." They caught the last bus of the night, Jamie falling asleep against Nathan's shoulder as they rumbled through darkened streets. Their apartment was cold when they arrived, the heat turned down to save on bills. Nathan tucked his son into bed, then checked the locks twice before collapsing onto the couch. Their apartment was small, just 2 bedrooms in a crumbling building on the wrong side of town. The wallpaper peeled in corners, and the plumbing groaned like a dying animal, but it was clean and safe in theirs. On the coffee table sat a framed photo of Sarah Jamie's mother, her smile radiant despite the hospital gown she wore. 3 years gone, and sometimes the loss still felt fresh enough to steal his breath. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Your kindness didn't go unnoticed. Neither did your interference. Back off." Nathan stared at the message, a chill running down his spine that had nothing to do with the apartment's temperature. Somehow they'd identified him, which meant they might know about Jamie too. He deleted the message and tried to sleep, but his mind kept returning to the woman's, Ava's, face. The haunted look in her eyes, the way she'd momentarily softened when Jamie offered her a French fry, the oddly familiar features that he couldn't quite place. Dawn was breaking when he finally drifted off, only to be awakened an hour later by an insistent knocking. Groggily, he stumbled to the door, checking the peephole. A man in a crisp black suit stood outside, his posture military straight, clean-cut professional, emanating the kind of quiet authority that Nathan recognized from his service days. Not a threat, at least not an immediate one, but definitely someone used to being obeyed. "Mr. Nathan Reed," the man asked when Nathan cautiously opened the door. "Who's asking?" "My name is Michael Townsend. I represent Ms. Ava Kingsley." Nathan blinked, suddenly wide awake. The name triggered an immediate connection. Kingsley, as in Kingsley International Group, yes. Ms. Kingsley requests your presence this morning. He extended an envelope. She believes you might be in danger because of your assistance last night. Nathan took the envelope, his mind racing. Ava Kingsley, the reclusive billionaire heiress, whose family tragedy had dominated headlines 2 years ago. No wonder she'd look familiar. Her face had been splashed across every newspaper and magazine after the plane crash that killed her parents and younger brother, leaving her the sole heir to one of America's largest private companies. Inside the envelope was a handwritten note. Mr. Reed, I fear I've put you and your son in danger. Please allow Mr. Townsend to bring you to a secure location where we can talk. I wouldn't ask if I had any other option. A.K. The handwriting was elegant but rushed the pressure of the pen, leaving deep impressions in the expensive paper, written by someone under stress. My son comes with me, Nathan said firmly. Of course, Townsend replied. Ms. Kingsley was quite insistent about that. There's a car waiting downstairs. Nathan hesitated, every instinct screaming that this was madness. Getting involved with whatever trouble Ava Kingsley was in could only complicate his already difficult life. And yet the text he'd received last night suggested they weren't safe here either. Someone had identified him, knew where he lived. If they decided he was a threat, give us 10 minutes to get ready. While Jaime dressed, Nathan packed a small bag with essentials and retrieved the gun he kept locked in a safe at the back of his closet, a 9mm Glock meticulously maintained despite years of disuse. He hoped he wouldn't need it, but the military had taught him to prepare for the worst. The car turned out to be a sleek black limousine with tinted windows. Jaime's eyes widened to saucers. Dad, it's like in the movies. Nathan ruffled his son's hair, trying to project a confidence he didn't feel. Yeah, buddy, just like the movies. Inside, the vehicle was luxuriously appointed. Leather seats, a small bar, even a television. Jaime explored every feature with the unrestrained enthusiasm only a 7-year-old could muster, while Nathan kept his attention on their surroundings. As the limo pulled away from their apartment building, Nathan caught sight of a dark sedan parked across the street. The same one from last night. Watching, waiting. Mr. Townsend, Nathan said quietly, I think we're being followed. The driver nodded calmly. Yes, sir, we expected as much. He pressed a button on the console. Security team, this is Townsend. We have a tail. Initiating Protocol Omega. 2 identical black SUVs suddenly appeared, one pulling in front of their limo, the other behind, effectively boxing them in a protective convoy. Whoa, breathed Jaime, pressing his face against the window. Are we special agents now, Dad? Nathan managed a smile. Something like that, buddy. He turned to Townsend. Where exactly are we going? To Ms. Kingsley's private residence in Connecticut. It's the most secure of her properties. And what exactly is going on? What kind of trouble is she in? Townsend's expression remained professionally neutral. I believe Miss Kingsley would prefer to explain that herself, sir. As they left the city behind, crossing the George Washington Bridge into a landscape of increasingly affluent suburbs, Nathan tried to make sense of the situation. Why would a billionaire heiress risk bringing strangers to her home? What kind of trouble was she in that warranted this level of security? And most importantly, what did it have to do with him and Jaime? After nearly 2 hours, they turned onto a private road that wound through dense forest before opening onto a clearing dominated by a modernist mansion of glass and stone. The property was surrounded by a high perimeter fence topped with what Nathan recognized as military-grade security sensors. This place is a fortress, Nathan observed. It was designed that way, Townsend confirmed. Mr. Kingsley was cautious. Paranoid, you mean? In his line of work, paranoia was often justified. As they approached the main house, Nathan spotted Ava waiting on the steps. Gone was the haunted woman from the diner, replaced by someone who radiated controlled power, despite her casual attire of jeans and a simple black sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, revealing the fine bones of her face. She looked younger in daylight, but no less burdened. Mr. Reed, she called as they exited the car. Thank you for coming. Her eyes softened when she saw Jaime. And thank you, young man, for bringing your father. Jaime beamed, instantly charmed. Your house is like a castle. Ava laughed, the sound surprising in its genuine warmth. Well, I've never had a proper guest to show it to. Would you like a tour? As Jaime eagerly followed Ava inside, Nathan hung back, taking in the security measures. Cameras, motion sensors, armed guards patrolling the perimeter. Whatever trouble Ava Kingsley was in, she was taking no chances. Inside the home was surprisingly warm despite its modern architecture. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a lake, while a massive fireplace dominated the living area. But Nathan also noted the reinforced doors, the panic room entrance, partially concealed behind a bookshelf, the subtle earpieces worn by staff members. "Your home is beautiful," Nathan commented, "but it feels more like a military installation than a residence." Impressed, Ava asked, returning from showing Jamie the home theater room, where he was now happily watching cartoons under the watchful eye of Townsend. "Concerned," Nathan replied honestly. "This level of security suggests you are not just hiding from paparazzi." Ava's smile faded. "No, I'm not." She gestured to a set of chairs overlooking the lake. "Please sit. I owe you an explanation." As they settled, she continued, "First, I want to apologize for involving you in this. I never should have stopped at that diner, but I was—" She hesitated, fingers twisting together in her lap. "I was at a breaking point. I needed to be somewhere normal, just for an hour." "What kind of trouble are you in?" Nathan asked directly. Ava took a deep breath. "The kind that gets people killed." She reached for a tablet on the coffee table, tapping the screen before handing it to him. "3 months ago, I discovered financial irregularities in Kingsley International's books. Not just creative accounting, massive fraud, money laundering, possible connections to arms dealing." Nathan scrolled through documents showing wire transfers to shell companies, emails with thinly veiled references to special merchandise, photographs of meetings between Kingsley executives and known arms dealers. "The board meeting I mentioned last night, I was supposed to present this evidence today. Someone clearly doesn't want that to happen." "Have you gone to the authorities?" Her laugh was bitter. "With what proof? Everything I've gathered is circumstantial at best. And Kingsley International has half the politicians in Washington on speed dial." She leaned forward, eyes intense. "Besides, I don't know who I can trust. The people behind this are powerful, connected. They could be anywhere." "Why trust me then? You don't know me." "I know more than you think." She held his gaze. "Nathan Reed, honorably discharged from military police after 8 years of service. Specialized in security and investigation. Single father to Jamie Reed since your wife's death from cancer 3 years ago. Currently working 2 jobs. Security at Anderson Shipping and nights at Maggie's Diner. Struggling financially but never missed a day of work. No criminal record, no gambling, no drugs. Just a man trying to give his son a decent life against impossible odds." Nathan stiffened. "You had me investigated. After last night, yes. I needed to know who you were before bringing you here." Her expression softened. "What I found was a man with integrity, something increasingly rare in my world. So you pulled us out of our lives based on a background check and a gut feeling. I pulled you out because you're in danger." Ava's voice was sharp now. "Those men who followed us last night, they're not just photographers. They're mercenaries hired by people within my company who would do anything to protect their operation, including eliminating witnesses." Before Nathan could respond, an alarm blared through the house. Ava leapt to her feet as Townsend burst into the room. "Perimeter breach, East Quadrant," he reported tersely. "Multiple hostiles." Nathan's military training kicked in instantly. "Where's my son?" "Still in the theater room. Johnson is moving him to the panic room now." "I need to get to him." Nathan was already moving toward the door. "Wait," Ava called, reaching into a drawer and pulling out a handgun, which she tossed to him. "You might need this." Nathan caught it reflexively, checking the chamber with practiced ease. "You trust me with a weapon awfully quickly." "I have good instincts about people," she replied, retrieving a second gun for herself. "They're rarely wrong." As they moved through the house toward the panic room, security alerts continued to sound. Through windows, Nathan glimpsed figures in tactical gear, moving across the grounds, professional, coordinated, heavily armed. "This isn't just about stopping you from attending a board meeting," he observed grimly. "No," Ava agreed. "This is about silencing me permanently." They rounded a corner to find Johnson slumped against a wall, blood seeping from a wound in his shoulder. The theater room door stood open, empty. "Where's Jamie?" Nathan demanded, heart pounding in his chest. His hands went cold, a roaring in his ears, drowning out everything but the terrible, overwhelming fear for his son. "They took him," Johnson gasped. "Three men said if Ms. Kingsley wants to see the boy alive, she needs to hand over all copies of the evidence." Nathan's world narrowed to a single terrible point of focus. His son, taken, because he'd helped a stranger in a diner. "Nathan," Ava's voice seemed to come from far away. "Nathan, look at me." Her hands gripped his shoulders, forcing him to meet her eyes. "We'll get him back, I swear it. But first we need to survive this." The sound of gunfire erupted outside, closer now. Decision time. "How many security personnel do you have?" Nathan asked, military training taking over. 8 on site, 4 more can be here within 30 minutes. "And how many attackers?" "Sensors detected at least 12, Townsend reported, helping Johnson to his feet. Nathan nodded, formulating a plan. "We need to get to your security center. From there we can coordinate a defense and figure out where they've taken Hamey." As they moved through the house, the reality of their situation crystallized for Nathan. In the span of 12 hours, his life had transformed from mundane struggles to a life-or-death game of cat and mouse, all because he'd offered help to a woman who looked troubled. But there was no time for regrets, only action. His son needed him. They reached the security center, a reinforced room filled with monitors showing feeds from cameras around the property. 3 of Ava's security team were already there, weapons ready, faces grim. "Status report," Townsend demanded. "They've breached the main gate and east perimeter," one guard reported. "2 of our men are down. The attackers have split into 3 teams, one approaching the main house from the east, one covering the western escape route, and one," he hesitated. "One what?" Ava pressed. "One team left the property, driving fast, heading south on Route 7. "With my son," Nathan said grimly, studying the monitors. His hands clenched into fists, knuckles white with strain. Every fiber of his being screamed to go after them, but he forced himself to think tactically. "Can you track them? Highway cameras might catch them, but—" The guard was interrupted by the chime of Ava's phone. She pulled it out, face draining of color as she read the message. Wordlessly, she handed it to Nathan. On the screen was a photo of Jamie, terrified but unharmed, sitting in the back of a van. The message below read, "Ms. Kingsley, you have something we want. We have something Mr. Reed wants. 9 p.m. tonight, Pier 17. Come alone with all copies of your evidence. No police." Nathan's hands trembled with rage, a cold, clarifying fury, unlike anything he'd felt since combat. "Who are these people?" "The same people who've been threatening me for weeks," Iva replied, her voice tight with emotion. "The same people who likely arranged my family's accident." "This isn't just corporate espionage," Nathan said. "This is terrorism." Ava met his gaze, her expression a mixture of guilt and determination. "I think it's time you knew exactly what you've stumbled into." She turned to one of the security monitors, typing in a password that brought up a hidden folder of files. 2 years ago, when my family's plane went down, it was ruled an accident. I never believed that." She pulled up a document, an internal investigation report. "The crash happened right after my father told me he'd discovered something alarming within his own company. He said he needed to clean house, but wouldn't elaborate." Images appeared on screen. Photographs of distinguished-looking men in expensive suits, their names and titles listed below. "The Kingsley International Executive Board. Men I've known my entire life. Men who called me sweetheart and brought me birthday presents." She clicked on one photo, enlarging it. "Victor Hargrove, CFO and my father's oldest friend. Also the architect of an elaborate money laundering scheme, funneling corporate funds through shell companies to arm insurgent groups in politically unstable regions, rich in natural resources." Another photo. "James Westfield, COO, using company infrastructure to smuggle weapons prototypes to foreign military organizations that the U.S. government has banned from receiving arms." Another. "Senator Robert Pierce, not officially affiliated with Kingsley, but a major shareholder and frequent recipient of consulting fees that coincide suspiciously with key votes on defense contracts." Nathan stared at the faces, committing them to memory. "You're saying these men had your family killed. I'm saying they had the means, motive, and opportunity." Ava's voice was steady despite the emotion in her eyes. "And now they're after me. And you and Jamie. A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only by the beeping of security monitors. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just corporate fraud, it was conspiracy, treason, murder. Ms. Kingsley, one of the guards called urgently, "We've got movement at the north perimeter." They turned to see a new group of vehicles approaching, black SUVs with government plates. FBI, Nathan asked hopefully. Townsend zoomed in on the lead vehicle. No insignia, could be private contractors. Or worse, Ava said quietly, Senator Pierce's personal security detail. Ex-military operating outside official channels. Nathan's mind raced. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Armed men closing in on their position. Jamie held hostage. Enemies seemingly everywhere. And at the center of it all, a conspiracy reaching into the highest levels of corporate America and the U.S. government. "We need to move," he decided. "Is there a way out they don't know about?" Ava nodded. "The tunnel system, built during Prohibition, expanded by my paranoid father, leads to a boathouse on the other side of the lake." "That's our play," Nathan said. "We take minimal personnel, essential evidence, and disappear. Then we figure out how to get my son back." As they gathered what they needed, weapons, communication devices, the tablet with Ava's evidence, Nathan couldn't shake a growing suspicion. Something about this situation felt too orchestrated, too convenient. "Ava," he said slowly, studying her face, "how did you really end up at that diner last night?" She froze, guilt flashing across her face before she could mask it. "What do you mean?" "Yeah, that diner is 20 miles from here, in a neighborhood nobody with your kind of money visits by accident. You knew I worked there, didn't you?" For a long moment, she said nothing. Weight of unspoken truth hanging between them. Then quietly, "Yes." Ava took a deep breath, her shoulders sagging, as if a great burden had finally become too heavy to bear. "Because your father was Thomas Reed, former head of security for Kingsley International, until his mysterious suicide 15 years ago, right after he started asking questions about certain shipments leaving company warehouses." Nathan felt as if the floor had dropped from beneath him. A buzzing filled his ears as long-buried memories resurfaced. His father's growing paranoia in the weeks before his death, the hushed phone calls, the documents hidden in his study, the official story, depression, financial troubles, a man who couldn't face his failures. Nathan had never fully believed it, but at 17, what could he do? "My father, Baal." Nathan's voice sounded strange to his own ears. "He worked for Kingsley. Not just worked for them, he was my father's most trusted security advisor. His friend." Ava's eyes were pleading. "Nathan, your father didn't kill himself. He was murdered because he discovered the same operation I've uncovered. The same people who killed my family killed yours first." The revelation hit Nathan like a physical blow. His father, the man whose death had shaped his entire adult life, driving him into the military, instilling in him a desperate need for truth and justice, had been murdered. And now, 15 years later, the same shadowy forces had taken his son. "You were looking for me specifically, Pui, because I needed someone I could trust. Someone with both the skills and the motivation to help me fight back." Her eyes were pleading. "I was going to tell you everything, but then those men showed up, and you helped me without knowing who I was, and I thought maybe fate was giving us both a chance for justice." Nathan's mind reeled, trying to process this new reality. The coincidence that wasn't a coincidence. The chance meeting that had been planned. The danger he'd unwittingly pulled his son into. "You used me," he said, voice dangerously quiet. "You put my son in the crosshairs of killers because of a vendetta." "No," Ava's eyes flashed with genuine pain. "I never meant for Jamie to be involved. I just wanted to talk to you to show you the evidence. I thought we'd have time that we could be careful. I never imagined they'd move so quickly, so violently." Before Nathan could respond, an explosion rocked the house, sending dust raining from the ceiling. The building shuddered, lights flickering. "They're inside," Townsend reported urgently. "We need to move now." There was no time to process the bombshell Ava had dropped. No time for anger or betrayal or the 1,000 questions racing through Nathan's mind. Only survival. "This isn't over," he told Ava, eyes hard. "But right now we need to get out of here and find my son." She nodded, understanding the implicit threat. After Jamie was safe, there would be a reckoning. As they hurried toward the hidden tunnel entrance, Nathan's thoughts were consumed by a single focus: Jaime, his innocent son dragged into a deadly conspiracy because of secrets buried in the past. The truth about his father would have to wait. First, they needed to survive. Then they would find Jamie. And after that, they would bring down an empire built on blood and lies, starting with the men who had taken his son. The tunnel entrance was hidden behind a false wall in the wine cellar, accessed by a mechanism disguised as an ordinary bottle rack. As the wall slid open, revealing a dark passage beyond, Ava handed Nathan a flashlight. "It's about a mile to the boathouse," she explained. "The tunnel was originally built to smuggle liquor during Prohibition. My father expanded it as part of his security measures." "Your father thought of everything," Nathan commented, unable to keep the bitterness from his voice. "Except who to trust," Ava replied quietly. As they descended into the darkness, followed by Townsend and one other guard, Nathan felt the weight of history pressing down upon him. Two families, two tragedies, connected by secrets that had finally surfaced after years of calculated deception. And at the center of it all, his son, an innocent child paying the price for a legacy of blood neither of them had chosen. The tunnel air hung heavy with dampness and history. Their flashlight beams carved weak paths through darkness that seemed to swallow light. Nathan led the group, each step purposeful, despite the turmoil in his mind. Behind him, Ava's breathing came quick and shallow, the sound of someone unaccustomed to physical danger. "How much farther?" Nathan asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Another quarter-mile," Townsend replied. "The boathouse sits on the opposite shore." Nathan nodded, focusing on the immediate task of escape, while his thoughts orbited around Jaime. Each second that passed was another his son spent in the hands of killers. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead, despite the tunnel's chill. "We need to contact the authorities," the second guard suggested. "No," Nathan's response came sharp and immediate. "They said no police. I'm not risking my son's life." "Besides," Ava added, "we don't know who might be compromised. Senator Pierce has connections throughout federal law enforcement." The tunnel gradually sloped upward until they reached a steel door. Townsend entered a code on a keypad, and the heavy barrier swung open with a hydraulic hiss. Beyond lay a boathouse, sleek and modern, housing a 30-foot speedboat. "You really do live in a different world," Nathan muttered. They boarded quickly. Townsend took the helm, while the other guard, Miller, secured the perimeter. The boat's engines hummed to life, a low, powerful vibration beneath their feet. "Where are we going?" Nathan asked as they pulled away from the dock. "I have a safe house in Bridgeport," Ava said. "Off the company books. No one knows about it except me." Nathan studied her face, searching for deception. "And I'm supposed to just trust you after everything you have hidden?" Ava met his gaze unflinchingly. "Yes, because despite what you think of me right now, I want to help you get your son back." The boat cut through the water, leaving a white trail in the darkness. Nathan turned away from Ava, staring across the lake toward the mansion. Smoke now rose from one wing. The attackers had set fire to the house. The symbolism wasn't lost on him. Burn it all down. Leave nothing behind, just like what had happened to his father. The memory surfaced unbidden: 17-year-old Nathan standing in the rain at his father's funeral, rage and disbelief warring inside him. The official story, suicide due to financial troubles and depression, had never sat right with him. His father, a meticulous, principled man, leaving no note, shooting himself in a parking garage with a gun that wasn't his. The inconsistencies had driven Nathan into the military, seeking structure and answers he never found. Until now. "Tell me about my father," Nathan said, suddenly turning back to Ava. "The truth." She hesitated, then nodded. "Thomas Reed was head of security for Kingsley International for 15 years. He was brilliant, methodical, and absolutely incorruptible. My father trusted him completely." "So what happened?" "In 2010, your father noticed discrepancies in shipping manifests. Military hardware meant for U.S. allies was being diverted, some items disappearing entirely, others being replaced with cheaper alternatives. He started investigating, quietly documenting everything." Nathan felt a painful recognition. His father had always been the same at home, observant, meticulous, keeping detailed records of even household expenses. 3 weeks into his investigation, he approached my father with his findings. Dad ordered a full internal audit, but before it could begin, Ava's voice faltered. He was found dead in his car. Gunshot wound to the head. Nathan finished for her. The details were seared into his memory. The police ruled it suicide. It wasn't, Ava said softly. The same people who later killed my family silenced your father first. They made it look like suicide to discredit his findings. Nathan's hands clenched into fists. And your father, did he believe that story? No, he kept digging, but quietly. He knew he was dealing with dangerous people inside his own company. Her expression darkened. 2 years ago, he finally told me he had evidence that would expose everything. The next day, our plane went down. The safe house in Bridgeport turned out to be a modest waterfront condo in a secure building, luxurious by Nathan's standards, but practically austere compared to the mansion they'd fled. Ava disabled an elaborate security system, then ushered them inside. We'll be safe here for now, she said, activating monitors that showed security feeds from the building's entrances. We need to plan our next move. Nathan checked his watch. 3:17 p.m., less than 6 hours until the exchange at Pier 17. His son had been in the hands of killers for over 3 hours already. There is no next move, he said flatly. I'm going to that pier and I'm getting my son back. It's a trap, Townsend interjected. They have no intention of letting any of you walk away. You think I don't know that? Nathan's voice rose sharply. But what choice do I have? They have my son. Ava stepped between them. We need to be smarter than they are. These people aren't just thugs, they're businessmen. They calculate risk and reward. We need to change that equation. How? Nathan demanded. By making sure they know that killing you and Jamie doesn't solve their problem. She moved to a laptop on the kitchen counter. I've prepared a dead man's switch. If anything happens to me, everything I've found gets sent to the FBI, Interpol, and major news outlets worldwide. They'll just assume you've already set something like that up, Nathan argued. It won't protect us. It's not enough on its own, Ava conceded. We need leverage, something they want more than they want us dead. The original evidence, Townsend suggested. Ava shook her head. They know I've made copies. That's why they want me to bring all versions to the exchange. Nathan paced the room, military training kicking in. Every operation has a weak link. Who's the most vulnerable in their organization? Who stands to lose the most if this goes public? A slow smile spread across Ava's face. Senator Pierce. He's up for re-election next month, and he's on the short list for a cabinet position. Exposure would destroy everything he's worked for. Can we get to him? Not directly, but his chief of staff, Marcus Wilkins, is attending a fundraiser tonight in Manhattan. He's Pierce's right-hand man, knows all his secrets. Nathan nodded, a plan forming. So we grab Wilkins, use him as our own leverage. It's risky, Townsend warned. So is doing nothing, Nathan countered. I need insurance before I walk onto that pier. He turned to Ava. You said you wanted to help get my son back. Prove it. Their eyes locked in silent challenge. After a moment, Ava nodded. All right, I know the venue. I can get us in. Us. You'll need backup, and my face opens doors, yours doesn't. Nathan wanted to argue but knew she was right. Fine, but I lead this operation. Agreed. Preparations moved quickly after that. Ava provided access to an arsenal that would have impressed Nathan's military commanders, weapons, tactical gear, communication devices. She changed into an elegant black dress, while Nathan donned a security uniform that might have been comical in its perfect fit if the situation weren't so dire. My father had dozens made, Ava explained when he commented on it. Standard sizes for his security team. By 5:30 p.m., they were heading into Manhattan, Townsend driving, while Miller remained behind to coordinate from the safe house. The fundraiser was at the Waldorf Astoria, a gathering of political elites and wealthy donors. Remember the plan, Nathan said as they approached the hotel. We identify Wilkins, isolate him, and extract quietly. No complications. Ava nodded, adjusting a diamond necklace that probably cost more than Nathan's yearly salary. Just follow my lead. They entered through the main doors, Ava's name granting immediate access despite her absence from the guest list. Kingsley donations speak louder than paper invitations, she murmured as they passed security. The ballroom glittered with wealth and influence. Politicians mingled with celebrities and business magnates, everyone performing the carefully choreographed dance of power and money. Nathan kept his expression neutral, scanning faces while maintaining his position slightly behind Ava's right shoulder. the perfect picture of a personal security detail. There, Ava whispered, inclining her head toward a tall, thin man with graying temples. Marcus Wilkins. And he's alone. Nathan assessed the target, late 50s, physically unimposing, likely unarmed in this setting. I'll create a diversion near the east exit. Guide him that way. The plan worked with military precision. A small electrical fire in a decorative fixture, courtesy of Nathan's improvised skills, drew attention and staff to the opposite side of the room. Ava smoothly intercepted Wilkins, steering him toward the service corridor with mentions of sensitive information about the senator's campaign. Nathan was waiting. A quick, practiced move pressure applied precisely to the carotid artery, and Wilkins slumped unconscious. They carried him out through service elevators, his limp form supported between them, as if he were intoxicated. Senator's aide had too much champagne, Ava explained with a conspiratorial smile to a concerned hotel employee. We're taking him home. Within minutes, they had Wilkins secured in the car's trunk and were heading toward the safe house. The operation had gone flawlessly, almost too easily. That was impressive, Ava said as they drove away. Where did you learn that technique? Military police. Sometimes you need to subdue someone without leaving marks. Nathan checked his watch again. 7:12 p.m. Less than 2 hours until the exchange. Will he be conscious by the time we need him? He should be, and if not, it doesn't matter. Pierce will know we have him as soon as he misses the second half of the fundraiser. They arrived back at the safe house to find Miller setting up communication equipment. I've mapped Pier 17, he reported. Multiple approach vectors, limited cover. It's not ideal. It's not meant to be, Nathan replied grimly. They chose it for a reason. Wilkins was secured to a chair in the living room, still unconscious but beginning to stir. Ava set up a camera and began recording as Nathan splashed water on the man's face. Where am I? Wilkins sputtered, eyes widening as he registered his restraints. Do you have any idea who I work for? Senator Robert Pierce, Nathan replied calmly. The man who's been helping Kingsley International smuggle illegal weapons and launder money through shell companies. The blood drained from Wilkins' face. I don't know what you're talking about. Save it. Ava stepped into his line of sight. We have the evidence, all of it. The offshore accounts, the falsified shipping, manifest the bribes. Recognition dawned in Wilkins' eyes. Ms. Kingsley, the senator warned this might happen. Did he also mention kidnapping a 7-year-old boy? Nathan grabbed the chair arms, leaning into Wilkins' personal space. Because that's what your people did today. Confusion flickered across Wilkins' features. What? No, that wasn't what? Nathan pressed. Part of the plan authorized because someone took my son and I want him back. Wilkins swallowed hard. Look, I just handled the senator's political affairs. I don't know anything about operations. Then you're useless to us, Nathan said coldly, stepping back. Ava, make the call. Send everything we have to the Washington Post. Front page tomorrow should be interesting. Wait, Wilkins' voice rose in panic. I can help. The senator isn't behind this, not directly. It's Hargrove and Westfield. They run the operation. Pierce just provides political cover. Nathan and Ava exchanged glances. And these men took my son, Nathan asked. I don't know, Wilkins insisted. But if someone's making moves like that, it would be Hargrove. He handles the enforcement side of things. Ava's phone chimed with an incoming message. Her face paled as she read it. It's from them. They've moved up the exchange. 1 hour. And they've sent proof of life. She turned the phone toward Nathan. The screen showed Jamie holding today's newspaper, tears streaking his face. Nathan's heart constricted painfully in his chest. New plan, he said, voice tight with controlled fury. Wilkins calls Pierce, tells him what's happening, makes it clear that if anything happens to my son or me, everything goes public. Pierce won't stop Hargrove, Wilkins objected. They're equals in the organization. But he can apply pressure, Ava countered. Mutual assured destruction. If Pierce goes down, so does Hargrove. Wilkins hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. I'll make the call. As Wilkins spoke to the senator, voice shaking as he explained the situation, Nathan prepared for the exchange. He checked his weapon, strapped on a bulletproof vest, and secured a backup pistol at his ankle. I'm coming with you, Ava said. No, they specifically said I come alone with the evidence. They'll kill you the moment they have what they want. Maybe, Nathan met her gaze, but they'll definitely kill us both if you are there. This way at least one of us survives to expose them. Nathan, uh, this isn't negotiable. His voice softened slightly. If something happens to me, I need to know someone will make them pay. For Jamie, for my father, for your family. Ava held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded. I'll have Townsend positioned nearby as backup, and I've prepared the evidence drive they're expecting. It contains enough to be convincing, but not everything. Nathan checked his watch one final time. 8:05 p.m. It's time. The drive to Pier 17 passed in tense silence. Nathan's mind filled with images of Jamie, his first steps, his laugh, the way he scrunched his nose when concentrating on homework. The thought of losing him was unbearable. We're 3 minutes out, Townsend reported from the driver's seat. I'll drop you at the designated point, then move to backup position. Remember, no intervention unless I give the signal, Nathan instructed. Jamie's safety comes first. The pier loomed ahead, dark and foreboding against the night sky. A few security lights cast pools of yellow illumination across the concrete expanse, but large sections remained in shadow. Perfect for an ambush. Nathan stepped out of the car, evidence drive in hand, and walked toward the meeting point. His senses heightened to near painful acuity, every sound, every movement registered with crystal clarity. The weight of his gun pressed reassuringly against his side. A black SUV sat at the far end of the pier, its engine running. As Nathan approached, the rear door opened, and a man in a dark suit emerged, pulling Jamie roughly by the arm. "Daddy!" Jamie cried, struggling against his captor's grip. "It's okay, buddy," Nathan called, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Everything's going to be fine." The man holding Jamie smiled coldly. "Mr. Reed, right on time." Nathan recognized him from the dossier Ava had shown him, Victor Hargrove, CFO of Kingsley International, the architect of the conspiracy that had claimed 2 families. "Let my son go," Nathan demanded. "The evidence first." Hargrove extended his free hand. Nathan held up the drive. "Release him, and it's yours." "That's not how this works." Hargrove's smile never reached his eyes. "The drive. Now. Or the boy has an unfortunate accident." To emphasize his point, another man emerged from the SUV, weapon drawn, and pointed at Jamie's head. Nathan's blood ran cold. His military training screamed that this was wrong. The exchange to expose the threat too blatant. But with his son's life in immediate danger, options were limited. Slowly he approached, drive extended. When he was within reach, Hargrove snatched it from his hand. "Verify it." He ordered the second man, who took the drive and returned to the SUV. Nathan stood motionless, eyes locked on Jamie. "It's going to be okay, buddy," he repeated softly. "Just stay calm." Jamie nodded bravely, though tears continued to stream down his face. The sight ignited something primal in Nathan's chest, a father's rage, white-hot and terrible. "It's genuine," the second man confirmed, emerging from the vehicle. "All the files are there." "Excellent," Hargrove nodded. "Kill them both." The second man raised his weapon, aiming at Nathan's chest. Time seemed to slow. Nathan tensed, preparing to dive for his son. "I wouldn't do that, Victor." The voice came from behind Nathan, familiar yet different, harder, colder than he remembered. Ava stepped into the light gun trained on Hargrove. "Not unless you want the world to know about Project Chimera." Hargrove froze, color draining from his face. "That's impossible. Those files were destroyed." "My father kept backups, off-site, off-grid." Ava moved forward, stance confident. "Did you really think Maxwell Kingsley would trust any of you completely?" "You're bluffing," Hargrove snarled, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "Am I?" Ava smiled thinly. "Biological weapons research 2015 to 2018. Unauthorized human testing in facilities across Southeast Asia. Your signature on every authorization form." Nathan watched this exchange with growing confusion. This wasn't part of the plan. Ava was supposed to remain at the safe house, not expose herself on the pier. And what was Project Chimera? She'd never mentioned it in any of their discussions. Hargrove's grip on Jamie tightened, causing the boy to whimper. "Stay back or the boy dies first." "He dies, you die," Ava replied coldly, her gun unwavering. "And then everything goes public. Is that how you want this to end, Victor? Your legacy reduced to war criminal in the history books?" Something changed in Hargrove's expression, calculation replacing confidence. He was reassessing, weighing options. Nathan saw his opening. With Hargrove distracted by Ava, his focus had shifted. The gun at Jamie's head had lowered slightly. Moving with the explosive speed of his military training, Nathan lunged forward, knocking the weapon aside while simultaneously pulling Jamie from Hargrove's grasp. The gun discharged the bullet, whining harmlessly into the night. Chaos erupted. The second man fired at Nathan, who dove behind a concrete pylon, shielding Jamie with his body. Ava returned fire, forcing their attackers to seek cover behind the SUV. "Run to the end of the pier," Nathan whispered urgently to his son. "Townsend is waiting in a gray sedan. Go." Jamie hesitated, clutching his father's shirt. "But you are Haimo. I'll be right behind you. Go now." With one last terrified look, Jamie sprinted away, keeping low as Nathan had taught him during their emergency drills, games that had suddenly become deadly serious. Nathan drew his weapon and fired 2 covering shots, allowing Ava to reposition behind another pylon. Bullets ricocheted off concrete, sending chips flying. "We need to move," he called to her. "More of them could arrive any minute." "Nathan," Ava's voice was strained, "there's something you need to know." Before she could finish, a new hail of gunfire erupted from a different angle. A third attacker had flanked their position. Nathan returned fire, but his magazine was nearly empty. "We're pinned down." Suddenly, the night blazed with light as a helicopter appeared overhead, its spotlight illuminating the pier. A voice boomed through a loudspeaker. "Federal agents, drop your weapons!" Confusion rippled through both sides of the firefight. This wasn't Townsend's backup. This was an official intervention. "What the hell?" Nathan hissed, looking to Ava for explanation. Her expression was unreadable. "I'm sorry, Nathan. I had to make a call." Before he could respond, federal agents in tactical gear swarmed the pier from both ends. Hargrove and his men were quickly subdued, while others approached Nathan and Ava, weapons drawn. "Hands where we can see them," an agent had ordered. Nathan slowly raised his hands, mind racing. "My son." "The boy is safe," the agent assured him. "We have him." Relief flooded through Nathan, followed immediately by suspicion as he turned to Ava. "You called the FBI after everything you said about not trusting authorities." Ava lowered her weapon carefully to the ground. "Not the FBI. These are Justice Department special investigators from an independent task force. People I've been working with for months." "Months?" Nathan stared at her in disbelief. "You've been working with them all along." Before she could answer, the lead agent approached. "Is it Kingsley, Mr. Reed? We need to get you both to secure locations immediately. The operation is still active at multiple sites." As they were led towards separate vehicles, Nathan grabbed Ava's arm. "What aren't you telling me?" Her eyes met his, filled with regret and something else, determination perhaps, or resolve. "Project Chimera wasn't just weapons development," she said quietly. "It was genetic targeting technology, and one of its architects was Dr. Sarah Reed, your wife." The world tilted beneath Nathan's feet. Sound became distant, muffled, as if he were underwater. He stared at Ava, unable to process her words. "That's a lie," he finally managed, voice raw with shock. "Sarah was an oncology researcher. She worked on cancer treatments." "At Kingsley Medical Innovations," Ava replied softly. "A subsidiary created specifically to provide cover for Chimera research." Memories flashed through Nathan's mind. Sarah's late nights, her growing unease in the months before her diagnosis, conversations that stopped when he entered the room. Details that had seemed insignificant at the time now realigned into a terrifying new pattern. "No," he insisted, shaking his head. "She would never participate in weapons development. That wasn't who she was." "She didn't know at first," Ava explained as agents urged them toward the vehicles. "The research was compartmentalized. Scientists were told they were developing targeted treatments for aggressive cancers. Only later did some of them discover the true application." "And you've known this all along," anger surged through Nathan's shock. "You used me, manipulated me with half-truths, all while holding back the most important piece." "I needed your help," Ava admitted, "and I wasn't sure how you'd react." "Where's my son?" Nathan demanded, turning away from her toward the lead agent. "I need to see him now." "He's in the second vehicle, sir. You'll be transported together." Nathan pulled free from Ava's proximity, striding toward the indicated SUV. Inside, Jami sat wrapped in a shock blanket, a female agent beside him offering quiet reassurance. "Daddy." The boy launched himself into Nathan's arms, small body trembling with residual fear and relief. Nathan held his son tightly, eyes closed, focusing on the tangible reality of Jami, safe in his arms, rather than the devastating revelations still reverberating through his consciousness. "You're safe now, buddy," he murmured into Jamie's hair. "I've got you." Over the next several hours, father and son were transported to a secure government facility outside the city. Jaime, exhausted by his ordeal, fell asleep quickly in the temporary quarters they were assigned. Nathan sat beside his bed, watching his son's peaceful breathing, while his own mind churned with questions. Sarah, his wife, the mother of his child, involved in biological weapons research. It seemed impossible, contradicting everything he'd believed about their life together. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. He opened it to find Ava standing there, changed now into casual clothes, her face scrubbed clean of makeup and looking younger, more vulnerable. "May I come in?" she asked quietly. Nathan hesitated, then stepped aside. They moved to a small sitting area away from Jamie's bed. "I owe you the full truth," Ava began. "Yes, you do." Nathan's voice was controlled, but tension radiated from his rigid posture. Ava took a deep breath. 3 years ago, several scientists from Chimera began asking questions. The technical details they were seeing didn't align with cancer treatment protocols. Sarah was one of them. "Sarah died of cancer," Nathan said flatly. "Yes, she did." Ava's eyes held genuine sympathy, but the timing wasn't coincidental. Shortly after she and two colleagues began investigating their project's true purpose, all three developed aggressive forms of cancer, rare types with similar genetic markers. Horror dawned in Nathan's expression. "You're saying they were targeted, poisoned. We can't prove it conclusively, but the statistical probability of three researchers developing similar rare cancers within months of each other." She let the implication hang in the air. Nathan stood abruptly, pacing the small room. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you deserve to know, and because we're closer than ever to bringing down the entire operation." Ava leaned forward, intensity in her gaze. "The evidence we've gathered, combined with tonight's arrest, gives us enough to move against the core group. But we need your testimony about what happened on that pier." "My testimony?" Nathan laughed bitterly. "You want me to help you after all this? You used me, Ava. You dangled information about my father while withholding the truth about my wife." "I didn't know if I could trust you," she admitted. "Not completely, not at first." "Trust me." Nathan's voice rose sharply before he caught himself glancing at Jamie's sleeping form. He continued more quietly, but with no less intensity. "I put my son's life at risk because I trusted you. And I'm sorry for that, truly." For the first time, Ava's composed facade cracked completely, showing genuine remorse. "But this is bigger than both of us now. These people have killed dozens, maybe hundreds. They murdered your father, targeted your wife, endangered your son. Don't you want justice?" Nathan sank back into his chair, suddenly exhausted. "What I want is to take my son home and never think about Kingsley International again." "That's not an option anymore," Ava said gently. "They know who you are, what you know. Even with Hargrove in custody, others will come after you after Jami unless we dismantle the entire organization." The truth of her words hung heavy in the air. There was no going back to normal life, no pretending the past 2 days hadn't happened. The conspiracy had already claimed too much from him, his father, his wife, nearly his son. It would continue to take until nothing remained or until it was destroyed. "Tell me everything," Nathan finally said. "No more secrets, no more half-truths. Everything you know about my father, Sarah, all of it." Ava nodded. "Your father discovered the initial weapons smuggling operation in 2010. After his murder, my father continued investigating quietly but made little progress. The operation was too well insulated. And Project Chimera began in 2015, a classified bioweapons initiative funded through black budget allocations secured by Senator Pierce. On paper, it was research into defensive countermeasures against biological attacks. In reality, they were developing pathogens that could target specific genetic markers, ethnic groups, lineages, even individuals." Nathan felt sick. "And Sarah? She was recruited for her expertise in genetic therapy delivery systems. As I said, most researchers believed they were developing cancer treatments. The project leaders needed legitimate medical researchers to solve certain technical problems without realizing the application. When did she find out? Based on communications we've recovered about 7 months before her diagnosis. She and two colleagues, Dr. Chen and Dr. Rodriguez, began noticing inconsistencies in how their work was being applied. They started asking questions, comparing notes. And then all three developed cancer. Nathan finished the pieces fitting together with horrifying clarity. Yes, Chen died first 6 weeks after diagnosis. Dr. Rodriguez lasted 4 months. Sarah, Ava hesitated. 9 months, Nathan supplied, remembering the agonizing progression. She fought harder than anyone the doctors had seen. Silence fell between them, heavy with shared knowledge of calculated cruelty. Why didn't she tell me? Nathan finally asked the question that had been burning in his mind. She was trying to protect you and Jamie, Ava replied. We found this in her personal email account. She handed him her phone displaying a draft message. Never sent Nathan. If you were reading this, I couldn't find the courage to tell you in person. What I've discovered at work goes beyond unethical. It's monstrous. I've gathered evidence, but these people are dangerous. They killed Thomas Reed years ago for asking questions, and now they're watching me. I can't risk them coming after you and Jamie. I love you both too much. I'll find a way to expose them safely, I promise. Tears blurred Nathan's vision as he read his wife's words. The message was dated 3 weeks before her diagnosis. She never got the chance to send it, Ava said quietly, but she did manage to secure evidence before she became too ill. She encrypted it and hid it within routine medical research data. It took my team months to find and decrypt it after I began investigating Chimera. Nathan handed the phone back, emotions warring within him, grief, rage, regret. So both our families were destroyed by the same people. Yes. Ava's eyes held a reflection of his own pain. That's why I sought you out. Not just because of your skills or your father's connection, but because we're fighting the same enemy. We both lost everything to these people. The shared understanding created a bridge between them, tentative but real. For the first time, Nathan saw past Ava's wealth and privilege to the wounded person beneath someone who, like him, had been left alone in the world by forces beyond her control. What happens now? He asked. The Justice Department task force will move against the remaining conspirators at dawn. Simultaneous raids across multiple locations. With Hargrove in custody and the evidence we've gathered, including Sarah's hidden data, we can bring down the entire network. And Senator Pierce, already detained at his home, the evidence from his chief of staff was enough for a warrant. Nathan nodded slowly, decision crystallizing. I want to be part of it. The raids. I have military training, I know the players, and I have more reason than anyone to see this through. Ava studied him carefully. Are you sure? What about Jamie? He'll stay here under protection. Nathan looked over at his sleeping son. And when this is over, when these people can't hurt us anymore, we'll build a new life. One where we don't have to look over our shoulders. I'll speak to the task force commander, Ava promised. They can use someone with your skills. As she rose to leave, Nathan caught her hand. Thank you for telling me the truth about Sarah. It helps somehow to know she was trying to do the right thing. Ava's fingers tightened briefly around his. She was a hero, Nathan, just like your father. And now you can finish what they started. The pre-dawn briefing was tense with anticipation. 30 federal agents plus Nathan and Ava reviewed tactical plans for simultaneous raids on 7 locations, corporate offices, private residences, and a research facility outside the city. Reed and Kingsley will accompany Team Alpha to the primary target, Kingsley International's private research campus, the commander instructed. Their familiarity with the principals makes them valuable assets, but they remain civilian consultants. They do not engage directly unless absolutely necessary. Nathan, dressed in tactical gear that felt familiar after his military service, checked his non-lethal equipment. He'd been issued a sidearm but hoped he wouldn't need it. This was about justice, not vengeance, though the line between the two had become increasingly blurred. Ava approached similarly outfitted. The tactical gear transformed her, stripping away the billionaire heiress to reveal the determined fighter beneath. Ready? She asked. As I'll ever be. Nathan secured his vest. Hamy's still asleep. The agents promised to explain where I am when he wakes up. We'll be back before he knows it, Ava assured him. The convoy moved out darkness, still cloaking the city as they headed toward Westchester County. Nathan and Ava rode in silence, each lost in thoughts of what awaited and what had come before. The Kingsley Research Campus appeared deceptively peaceful in the pre-dawn light, a complex of modern buildings nestled among manicured grounds. Security was visible but not overwhelming. The facility maintained the appearance of a legitimate corporate research center. Primary target is Building C Sublevel 2, the team leader reminded them as they prepared to move. According to intel, that's where the Chimera materials are stored. The raid began with precision and overwhelming force. Security personnel caught by surprise offered minimal resistance. Within minutes, the federal team had secured the main entrance and was moving systematically through the facility. Nathan and Ava followed behind the tactical team, advancing through sterile corridors that grew increasingly restricted with each security checkpoint. Personnel encountered along the way were detained for questioning, most appearing genuinely confused by the intrusion. Most of the staff here have no idea what's really happening in the restricted areas, Ava explained quietly as they descended to Sublevel 2. Just like with Sarah's team, they're compartmentalized. The atmosphere changed as they reached the lower level. Security increased dramatically, biometric scanners, armed guards now in custody, reinforced doors. This was clearly the heart of something secret. As the team breached the final security door, they entered a large laboratory space filled with the advanced equipment. Nathan recognized some of it from Sarah's descriptions of her work: gene sequencers, cellular manipulation apparatus, biocontainment systems. Secure all materials and data, the team leader ordered. Nothing leaves this room without proper containment and documentation. Nathan moved through the space, a growing sense of unease prickling along his spine. Something wasn't right. The lab appeared active equipment, running experiments in progress, but no personnel had been present upon their entry. "Where is everyone?" he murmured to Ava. "A facility this sensitive should have staff even at this hour." Ava frowned, sharing his concern. Unless they were warned. A sudden commotion near the main entrance interrupted their conversation. Nathan moved toward the disturbance, finding agents clustered around a computer terminal. "We've got a problem," one reported grimly. "The system is executing some kind of purge protocol. Data is being wiped across all servers." "Can you stop it?" the team leader demanded. "Trying, but it's sophisticated. Whoever designed this knew what they were doing." Nathan scanned the room with new urgency. If they're destroying data, they might be destroying physical evidence too. As if in answer to his concern, a soft hissing sound emerged from multiple points around the laboratory. Warning lights began to flash as an automated voice announced, "Decontamination sequence initiated. All personnel must evacuate immediately." "Gas," the team leader shouted. "Masks on now." Agents scrambled to secure their protective gear as a fine mist began filling the laboratory. Nathan and Ava pulled on the gas masks they'd been issued, exchanging grim looks through the clear visors. "This isn't decontamination," Ava said, voice muffled by the mask. "It's destruction of evidence." "And possibly worse," Nathan added. "We need to find the source and shut it down." They split from the main group, moving deeper into the laboratory complex, while most agents began evacuation procedures. Following the pipework visible along the ceiling, they located a central control room secured by another biometric lock. "Can you get us in?" Nathan asked. Ava examined the scanner. "It's keyed to specific authorized personnel, senior researchers or executives." "Like James Westfield," Nathan suggested. "Wasn't he overseeing Chimera?" "Yes, but we don't have his biometrics." Nathan studied the lock mechanism, mind racing. "Maybe we don't need them. These systems often have emergency overrides." He examined the panel beside the door, finding a maintenance access port. "If I can bypass the main circuit." Years of military technical training proved useful as Nathan carefully disassembled the control panel and rewired key connections. After tense minutes of work, the door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Inside, they found not just a control center, but comprehensive records, physical documentation that hadn't yet been destroyed in the digital purge. And more importantly, a master control system for the facility. "Here," Ava called, examining a central console. "This controls the decontamination system. If I can just—" Her fingers flew over the keyboard, attempting to override the protocol. Nathan, meanwhile, gathered physical files, quickly scanning contents to identify the most critical materials. "Got it," Ava announced triumphantly as the hissing stopped. System deactivated. And I found these. Nathan held up several files labeled Chimera Phase 3 Targeted Deployment. Documentation of the entire program, including test subjects. Their victory was short-lived. As they prepared to exit with their findings, the door to the control room slammed shut, locking automatically. What happened? Nathan demanded, moving back to the control panel. Remote override, Ava replied, examining the computer system. Someone's locked us in. A monitor on the wall flickered to life, revealing the face of James Westfield, Kingsley International COO, and the operational head of Project Chimera. Ms. Kingsley, Mr. Reed, he greeted them with cold formality. How fitting to find you both together at the end. It's over, Westfield, Ava replied defiantly. The authorities have your facilities. Hargrove and Pierce are in custody. We have documentation of everything. Do you really think we didn't prepare for this contingency? Westfield's smile was chilling. What you found is merely one node in a global network. For every facility you raid, 3 more remain undiscovered. You can't escape, Nathan stated flatly. Every law enforcement agency in the country is looking for you. I don't need to escape, Mr. Reed. I simply need to eliminate the most immediate threats, namely you two. Westfield's expression hardened. The control room you've so cleverly accessed is designed with special security features, including oxygen management. As if on cue, a soft alarm began to sound, and a digital display on the wall began counting down from 10 minutes. That's how long you have before the oxygen is completely depleted, Westfield explained. A regrettable accident during your unauthorized investigation. By the time your colleagues realize what's happening and manage to breach the reinforced door, you'll both be dead. You won't get away with this, Ava insisted, though uncertainty crept into her voice. I already have, Miss Kingsley. Goodbye. The screen went dark, leaving them alone with the steadily declining oxygen counter. Nathan immediately began examining the door mechanism, looking for weaknesses. There has to be a manual override somewhere. Safety regulations would require it. Ava returned to the computer, searching frantically for system controls. He's locked us out of everything. I can't even access basic functions. Minutes ticked by as they exhausted one possibility after another. The air was noticeably thinning, making exertion increasingly difficult. Nathan, Ava finally said, voice strained, if we don't make it out of here. We will, he insisted, though his own confidence was waning. He leaned against the wall, conserving energy while considering options. I need to tell you something, she continued, sitting beside him, about why I really sought you out. Nathan turned to her curiosity, overcoming his focus on escape. It wasn't just because of your father's connection or your military background, Ava admitted. It was because of what Sarah did before she died. What do you mean? The evidence she hid wasn't just documentation of Chimera. It was a formula, a counteragent she developed in secret. Ava's eyes held a mixture of admiration and regret. She created an antidote to the targeted pathogens, something that could neutralize their effects. And she encrypted the formula in a way that only someone with her family's genetic markers could access. Jamie, Nathan breathed, understanding dawning. She hid it in his DNA somehow. Ava nodded. A genetic key encoded in sequences that would appear natural to anyone examining him. Only someone knowing exactly what to look for could extract the information. So all this time, my son has been carrying the key to destroying their weapon. Yes, that's why I needed to find you both. Not just to bring down the conspiracy, but to access Sarah's final gift to the world. Tears formed in Ava's eyes. She was brilliant, Nathan. Even dying, she found a way to fight back. The revelation struck Nathan like a physical blow. Pride in Sarah's ingenuity mingling with horror at the danger this placed Jamie in. If Westfield and his associates ever discovered this truth, they can never know, he said fiercely, about any of this. They won't, Ava promised. The only copy of Sarah's explanation is in a secure location. I've never told anyone else. The oxygen counter showed 3 minutes remaining. Nathan's thoughts turned to Jamie, sleeping peacefully in the secure facility, unaware that he might soon become an orphan. The idea was unbearable. We need to get out of here, he stated with renewed determination. For Jamie. Summoning his remaining strength, Nathan examined the room once more, gaze falling on a ventilation grate near the ceiling. There, he pointed. That's connected to the main air system. But Westfield shut off the oxygen supply, Ava reminded him. To this room specifically, Nathan clarified. If we can breach that grate, we might be able to access air from the main system. Working together, they stacked furniture to reach the high grate. Nathan's fingers fumbled with the screw's weakness from oxygen deprivation, making the simple task enormously difficult. Finally, the grate came free. It's too small to crawl through, Ava observed disappointedly. Not trying to escape this way, Nathan explained between labored breaths. Just need to access. He reached into the duct, feeling around until he located what he suspected would be there, a manual damper control. With a tremendous effort, he twisted the mechanism. Fresh air immediately began flowing into the room. The building's main ventilation system must still be operational, Nathan explained, gulping in precious oxygen. This won't get us out, but it buys us time. Ava squeezed his hand gratefully. Time for the team to realize we're missing and find us. They sat beneath the open vent, breathing deeply as strength gradually returned. The countdown timer reached 0 and alarm lights flashed, but the fresh air continued flowing. Sarah would be proud of you, Ava said softly after a while. The way you've protected Jamie, how you fought to finish what she started. Nathan considered this. I think she'd be proud of both of us. You could have walked away from all this, lived your wealthy life in safety. Instead, you risked everything to expose the truth. Not entirely altruistic, Ava admitted with a small smile. I wanted revenge too. Don't we all, Nathan acknowledged. But what matters is the choice to fight for something larger than ourselves. A sudden thudding against the door interrupted their conversation. Muffled voices called their names, followed by the whine of cutting equipment. In here, they shouted together, moving toward the door. 10 minutes later, the tactical team had cut through the reinforced door, extracting them from their improvised prison, along with the crucial files they'd discovered. Westfield, Nathan asked the team leader as they emerged. In custody, came the satisfying reply. Picked up trying to board a private jet 30 minutes ago. Nathan and Ava exchanged exhausted but triumphant looks. After years of shadow and lost justice was finally within reach. The debriefing lasted hours. Nathan and Ava recounted everything they'd experienced, turning over all physical evidence recovered from the facility. By mid-afternoon, they were finally cleared to return to the secure location where Jamie waited. I can't wait to see his face, Nathan said as they drove back, fatigue evident in his voice, but spirits lifted by the thought of reunion. He's been through so much. He's resilient, Ava observed, like his father. Nathan smiled faintly, like his mother, too. They arrived at the Safe House, a nondescript government facility disguised as a private residence in a quiet suburb. Security was visible, but unobtrusive agents posing as gardeners, a surveillance van disguised as a utility truck. Something's wrong, Nathan said suddenly as they approached the front door. His instincts, honed by military service and recent experiences, were screaming a warning. What do you mean? Ava asked, tensing beside him. The guards at the perimeter, they didn't acknowledge us properly. Nathan's hand moved toward his weapon, and there's no movement inside. There should be at least 2 agents visible through those windows. They approached cautiously, Nathan signaling for Ava to move to the side of the entrance. He knocked, announcing himself according to protocol. No response. With practiced movement, Nathan drew his weapon and tried the door. It opened easily, another warning sign. Security protocols required it to remain locked. The scene inside confirmed his worst fears. 2 agents lay on the floor of the entryway, blood pooling beneath their still forms. Further inside, more bodies, the entire security team neutralized with professional efficiency. Jamie, Nathan called, panic rising as he moved quickly through the house. Jamie, each empty room increased his dread until he reached his son's bedroom. The door stood partially open, showing rumpled bedsheets, but no sign of the boy. He's gone, Nathan whispered, world collapsing around him. They took him. Ava appeared in the doorway, face pale with shock. How this place was secure. Only the task force knew. She stopped abruptly, realization dawning in her eyes. Nathan saw it too, the horrible truth they'd both been too trusting to consider. Someone inside the task force, Nathan said flatly. Someone working with Westfield and the others. Ava nodded grimly, already pulling out her phone. We need to alert the command center, lock down all. Her words cut off as the phone in her hand chimed with an incoming message. She stared at the screen, color draining from her face. What is it? Nathan demanded. Wordlessly, she turned the phone toward him. On the screen was a video message showing Jamie frightened but alive, held in what appeared to be a private jet cabin. Beside him sat a familiar figure, Task Force Commander Ellis, the man who had led the morning's raids. "I believe we need to renegotiate terms," Ellis stated calmly into the camera. "Ms. Kingsley, your family's private airfield, 1 hour. Come alone. Bring the genetic key documentation. Mr. Reed, stay where you are if you want to see your son again." The message ended, leaving them in stunned silence. "Ellis," Ava breathed. "He's been working with them all along." "Or they turned him," Nathan suggested, mind racing for explanations for solutions. "Threatened his family, offered money." "It doesn't matter why," Ava cut in. "What matters is he has Jamie and knows about the genetic key." Nathan's blood ran cold. "Hey, you said you never told anyone." Ava's expression shifted from shock to something harder, more complex. "I didn't, which means they must have known already. They've been playing us, Nathan. All of this, the raids, the arrests, it was a setup to flush out Sarah's work. And now they have my son." Nathan's voice was deadly quiet. "The one person who can unlock the formula they need." "I have to go," Ava said, moving toward the door. "If I bring them what they want—" "They'll kill you both," Nathan interrupted. "You know that." "What choice do we have?" Nathan's mind shifted into tactical mode, evaluating options, resources, time constraints. "We go together, but not to surrender to end this." "How they'll be expecting resistance." "Not the kind I'm planning." Nathan pulled out his phone. "I have a contact from my military days, someone who operates outside official channels." "A mercenary?" Ava asked, eyebrow raised. "A specialist," Nathan corrected. "Someone who can help us get my son back and make sure Ellis and his friends never threaten anyone again." The call was brief, arranged in coded language that would mean nothing to anyone listening. When he finished, Nathan turned to Ava with grim determination. "We have 30 minutes to prepare. After that, we move on the airfield." "What's the plan?" "First, we need to understand exactly what they want from Jamie." Nathan began gathering weapons from the fallen agents, checking each methodically. "You said Sarah hid the formula in his DNA. How would they access it?" "They'd need a blood sample and specific genetic sequencing equipment," Ava explained. "The formula is hidden in what appears to be junk DNA. Without the right decryption parameters, it's invisible." "So they need Jamie alive at least until they extract what they need," Nathan reasoned, finding cold comfort in this fact. "And they need you to tell them how to find it." "Yes. Then we use that. Give them a reason to keep you both alive long enough for us to act." Nathan handed her a tactical vest. "Put this on under your clothes, and take this." He passed her a small transmitter. "Keep it hidden but accessible." As they prepared, Nathan outlined his strategy, a high-risk plan that depended on precision timing and the element of surprise. Ava listened intently, asking occasional questions, but largely trusting his expertise. "This could go very wrong," she warned as they finished preparations. "I know," Nathan acknowledged, "but doing nothing guarantees we lose." They departed separately, Ava heading directly to the airfield as instructed, while Nathan took a more circuitous route to avoid detection. His contact would meet him at the rendezvous point with the requested equipment and support. As he drove, Nathan's thoughts were consumed by Jamie, his son's smile, his laugh, the way he scrunched his nose when concentrating. The boy was all he had left of Sarah, the center of his universe. The idea of failing him was unbearable. But beneath the fear and determination lay another emotion, one Nathan hadn't expected: rage toward Ava. Despite their growing connection, despite the trust that had developed between them, he couldn't shake the feeling that she had brought this danger into their lives. Her secrets, her crusade, her family's legacy of corruption and power, all of it had culminated in his son's abduction. When this was over, if they survived, there would be a reckoning. But first, Jamie had to be safe. The Kingsley private airfield appeared deceptively peaceful as dusk approached, a small exclusive facility nestled among wooded hills designed for discreet departures and arrivals of the ultra-wealthy. Nathan observed from a concealed position as Ava's car approached the main gate, was briefly inspected, then admitted. His earpiece crackled with her transmission. "I'm in. 3 visible guards at the gate, more likely inside. Ellis's jet is on the tarmac." "Understood," Nathan replied softly. "Proceed as planned. Backup is in position." Through binoculars, he watched Ava exit her vehicle and walk toward the main hangar, hands visible to show she was unarmed. Two armed men emerged to escort her inside. Nathan shifted position, moving silently through the perimeter vegetation toward his designated entry point. His military training, combined with the skills of his specialist contact, a former Delta Force operator named Reyes, who owed Nathan a life debt from Afghanistan, gave them a fighting chance. "East perimeter clear," came Reyes's voice through the earpiece. "Sentry neutralized silently. Proceeding to position B." "Roger that," Nathan acknowledged. "I'm approaching the maintenance shed now." Inside the hangar, Ava was being led toward the waiting jet, its engines already running for quick departure. Through the aircraft's windows, she could see Jamie seated inside a guard beside him. "Ms. Kingsley," Commander Ellis greeted her at the foot of the boarding stairs. "I appreciate your punctuality." "Where's Westfield?" Ava demanded. "I thought he was in custody." Ellis smiled thinly. "Official records show he is. Reality is somewhat different." "You betrayed everything you claimed to stand for," Ava said with quiet contempt. "For what money?" "For vision, Ms. Kingsley. Your father understood the potential of Project Chimera before his unfortunate crisis of conscience. The ability to target pathogens to specific genetic markers isn't just a weapon, it's a tool for reshaping humanity's future." "It's genocide," Ava countered. Ellis shrugged. "Evolution has always involved selection pressures. We're simply accelerating the process." He gestured toward the plane. "Now I believe you have information we need about accessing Dr. Reed's formula." "I want to see Jamie first," Ava insisted. "Make sure he's unharmed." "Of course," Ellis signaled, and the boy was brought to the aircraft door. "Ava," Jamie called, relief evident in his voice. "Where's my dad?" "He's coming, sweetie," Ava assured him, mentally calculating distances and timing. Nathan's plan required precise coordination. "Are you okay?" "I'm scared," the boy admitted. "They won't tell me what they want." "It's going to be all right," Ava promised, reaching into her pocket as if retrieving documentation. Instead, her fingers closed around the transmitter Nathan had given her. One press would signal that Jamie was confirmed alive, and in the aircraft the trigger for their assault. "The information, Ms. Kingsley," Ellis prompted impatiently. Ava's finger pressed the button. "It's complicated. Sarah Reed designed a multi-layered encryption system based on nucleotide sequences that appear as normal genetic variations. The key is in how these variations interact across multiple chromosomes." Ellis frowned. "You're stalling." "I'm explaining," Ava countered. "This isn't simple. Sarah was brilliant. She created a system that looks completely natural, unless you know exactly what you're looking for." A distant thump interrupted their conversation, the sound of an explosion at the far side of the airfield. Ellis's head snapped in that direction, eyes narrowing with suspicion. "What was that?" he demanded. "Probably a fuel mishap," one of his men suggested, though his hand moved to his weapon. Ellis wasn't convinced. "Check it out, and get them both on the plane now." As guards moved to investigate the disturbance, chaos erupted across the airfield. The facility's lights cut out simultaneously, plunging the area into darkness, broken only by emergency runway illumination. Moments later, a series of smaller explosions created multiple distractions at different points around the perimeter. Nathan's attack had begun. Darkness descended on the airfield like a shroud punctuated by distant explosions that painted the sky in brief, violent flashes. In the confusion, Ava seized her opportunity. She shoved Ellis aside with surprising strength and lunged toward Jamie, pulling the boy behind her protective stance. "Run when I tell you," she whispered urgently. Ellis recovered quickly, drawing his weapon. "That was extremely unwise, Ms. Kingsley." The sharp report of gunfire erupted from the perimeter. Ellis's men returned fire at unseen attackers, their muzzle flashes creating strobing pulses in the darkness. A voice crackled over Ellis's radio. "We're under attack. Multiple hostiles." "Get the boy on the plane, now," Ellis ordered, gesturing for his remaining guards to secure their primary asset. As hands reached for Jamie, the boy bit down hard on his captor's arm, exactly as his father had taught him in their what-if safety drills. The man yelped in pain and loosened his grip just enough for Jamie to slip away. "Now, Jamie, run!" Ava shouted simultaneously, driving her elbow into Ellis's solar plexus. The boy darted toward the shadows beyond the hangar, his small form quickly disappearing into the darkness. Ellis, wheezing but still dangerous, grabbed Ava by the throat. "You've just signed your death warrant," he snarled. Before he could tighten his grip, a figure emerged from behind a fuel truck, moving with lethal precision. Nathan, he struck Ellis with calculated force, sending the man staggering backward. "Where's Jamie?" Nathan demanded, eyes scanning the chaos. "He ran for the shadow's east side." Ava gasped, massaging her throat. Nathan nodded, relief flashing briefly across his face. "Reyes will find him. That's his position." He handed Ava a handgun. "Can you use this?" She checked the weapon with practiced efficiency. "My father insisted I learn." A bullet pinged off the metal fuselage beside them, a sharp reminder of their exposed position. Nathan pulled Ava behind a luggage cart, assessing their situation with a tactical eye. "We need to move. More of Ellis's men will be coming." "What about Jamie?" "Reyes will get him to the extraction point." "We need to make sure they don't follow." They moved in tandem, Nathan leading as they used the darkness and chaos to their advantage. Years of military training guided his every step, every decision. This wasn't the first time he'd operated in hostile territory, but never before had the stakes been so personal. 3 armed men appeared around the corner of the hangar, weapons raised. Nathan fired first, his shots precise and economical. 2 fell immediately. The third managed to get off a wild burst of fire before Ava's bullet found its mark. "You're good," Nathan commented, surprised by her accuracy. "Kingsley family tradition," she replied grimly. "Shoot competitively by 12, handle business rivals by 30. They continued their advance toward the extraction point, a maintenance road half a mile from the main facility where Reyes would bring Jaime. Each step carried them deeper into the surrounding woods, away from the firefight still raging at the hangar. Nathan's earpiece crackled. "Reed, I have the package. Proceeding to extraction point." Reyes's voice was steady, professional. "Is he hurt?" Nathan asked, the facade of tactical detachment cracking slightly. "Negative. Package is secure and unharmed." Relief flooded through Nathan, almost making his knees buckle. Jaime was safe. Now they just needed to escape. A new voice joined the radio chatter, one of Ellis's men. "Target spotted moving east through the woods with the boy. All units converge." Nathan's blood ran cold. "They've spotted Reyes and Jamie. We need to create a diversion." Without hesitation, Ava nodded. "What's the play?" "They want me dead and you alive for the information. Let's use that." Nathan quickly outlined his plan, dangerous perhaps, suicidal, but with the highest probability of securing Jamie's escape. "That's insane," Ava protested. "You'll be completely exposed." "It's our best option," Nathan insisted. "Jamie's safety is all that matters now." After a moment's hesitation, Ava agreed. They split up, moving in opposite directions to execute their desperate gambit. Nathan positioned himself on a small rise, deliberately exposing his position. When he spotted movement below Ellis and 4 armed men tracking toward the extraction point, he opened fire, aiming to disable rather than kill. The bullets kicked up dirt at their feet, immediately drawing their attention. "Reed," Ellis shouted, recognizing him instantly. "Surrender now and we might let your son live." "You want me? Come get me," Nathan called back, firing again before retreating into the trees. The ploy worked. Ellis directed 3 of his men to pursue Nathan, leaving just 1 to continue tracking Reyes and Jaime. The odds had shifted dramatically in their favor. Nathan led his pursuers on a calculated chase, using the terrain to his advantage. Each movement was designed to draw them further from the extraction point, to buy time for Jamie's escape. He was outnumbered but not outmatched. Years of training and the motivation of protecting his son gave him an edge his opponents couldn't counter. One by one, he neutralized his pursuers. The first fell to a well-placed shot when he carelessly exposed his position. The second walked into an improvised trap, a branch Nathan had bent back and secured with his belt, releasing it at the perfect moment to strike with concussive force. The third proved more challenging, a professional who maintained discipline and approached cautiously. Nathan was forced to engage in close combat, a desperate struggle that ended with both men bloodied, but only Nathan standing. Ellis, meanwhile, had doubled back toward the extraction point, realizing too late that he'd been manipulated. By the time he corrected his course, precious minutes had been lost. Ava had followed her own parallel path, moving to intercept the remaining guard tracking Reyes and Jaime. She found him crouched behind a fallen tree, rifle trained on the path ahead, where Reyes would soon appear with Jaime. With no clear shot and time running out, Ava made a split-second decision. She stepped deliberately on a branch, the loud crack drawing the guard's attention. When he turned, she was standing in plain sight. "Looking for me," she called. The guard hesitated, mission priorities conflicting. His orders were to recover the boy, but Ava Kingsley was the key to unlocking the formula they sought. That moment of indecision was all Reyes needed. Moving silently through the underbrush with Jamie securely in his arms, the former Delta operator bypassed the guard's position entirely, continuing toward the extraction point undetected. Ava kept the guard's attention fixed on her, engaging in a verbal sparring match that played on his uncertainty. When he finally decided to apprehend her, she was ready. The ensuing struggle was brief but violent. Ava had spent her life in the shadow of powerful, dangerous men. She knew how they thought, how they moved, and most importantly, how they underestimated women. The guard made that fatal mistake. He expected compliance or panic. Instead, he found himself fighting for his life against someone who had been preparing for this moment since childhood. Ava wasn't just a billionaire heiress. She was Maxwell Kingsley's daughter, raised to survive in a world of predators. When it was over, she stood shakily over the unconscious guard, nursing what felt like bruised ribs, but otherwise intact. Her path to the extraction point now clear, she moved as quickly as her injuries allowed. Nathan reached the maintenance road first, having successfully eliminated or diverted all pursuers except Ellis himself. Reyes was already there with Jamie, the boy's face lighting up at the sight of his father. "Dad." Jamie broke free from Reyes's protective hold and ran to Nathan, who swept him into a fierce embrace. "Are you okay, buddy? Did they hurt you?" Nathan held his son at arm's length, checking for injuries. "I'm okay," Jamie assured him, though his voice trembled slightly. "I did what you taught me. When the bad guys came, I pretended to be scared, but I watched everything just like you said." Pride and relief mingled in Nathan's chest. "That's my boy." Reyes interrupted their reunion. "Vehicle approaching from the north. Could be hostiles." Nathan immediately pushed Jamie toward their own extraction vehicle, an unmarked SUV positioned just off the maintenance road. "Get in now. Reyes, get him out of here." "What about you?" Reyes asked, weapon already trained on the approaching headlights. "I'll follow with Ava. Just get my son to safety." Jamie clutched at Nathan's tactical vest. "No, I want to stay with you." "I'll be right behind you, buddy, I promise." Nathan gently but firmly disengaged his son's fingers. "Go with Mr. Reyes now. He'll keep you safe until I catch up." Reluctantly, Jamie allowed himself to be guided into the vehicle. As Reyes prepared to depart, Nathan spotted a figure emerging from the trees, Ava moving with obvious pain, but still upright. "Go," Nathan ordered Reyes, who nodded once before accelerating away with precious cargo secured. Nathan moved to intercept Ava, supporting her as she stumbled the final distance to their position. "You're hurt." "Nothing serious," she gasped. "The extraction—" "Jamie's away with Reyes. Our vehicle should be just beyond that ridge." The approaching headlights grew closer now, accompanied by the distinctive whine of a high-performance engine. Ellis in pursuit. "We need to move," Nathan urged, helping Ava toward their secondary extraction point. They had covered half the distance when Ellis's vehicle burst into view, skidding to a halt on the gravel road. The commander emerged alone, weapon already drawn. "Reed Kingsley," he shouted. "It's over." Nathan pushed Ava behind him, assessing their options. They were exposed with limited cover between their position and their escape vehicle. Ellis had the high ground and a clear line of fire. "It was over the moment you took my son," Nathan called back, buying time while calculating angles and distances. "Where is the boy?" Ellis demanded. "Where's Jamie?" "Safe, beyond your reach." Ellis's laugh was cold. "Nothing is beyond our reach, Reed. We found your wife when she tried to hide. We found your father when he became inconvenient. We'll find your son, too." The casual mention of Sarah and his father ignited something primal in Nathan's chest, a rage so pure it momentarily clouded his tactical judgment. He stepped forward, weapon raised. "Nathan, don't," Ava warned. "It's what he wants." Ellis smiled, seeing the effect his words had produced. "Did Ms. Kingsley tell you everything, Reed, about how your wife was actually responding to the targeted pathogen, how she lasted so much longer than the others? Because Kingsley researchers were studying her resistance, gathering data, while she suffered." "He's lying," Ava insisted. "Sarah's case was monitored, yes, but not created. We found evidence." "Evidence I planted for you to find," Ellis interrupted. "Breadcrumbs leading exactly where we wanted you to go. Did you really think two civilians could unravel a conspiracy of this magnitude without help? We led you every step of the way." Doubt crept into Nathan's mind. Had they been manipulated from the beginning? Was Ava's appearance at the diner truly coincidence or part of an elaborate setup Ellis pressed his advantage? We needed you both to lead us to the formula. Sarah hit it too well, even our best people couldn't locate it. But we knew her husband and son would be the key. So you engineered all of this? Ava asked, disbelief evident in her voice. The threats against me, the evidence I found. Not all of it, Ellis admitted. Your father's plane crash was genuinely Hargrove and Westfield eliminating a liability. But afterward, your investigation, we monitored every step, removed obstacles when necessary, left just enough breadcrumbs to keep you moving in the right direction. Nathan's grip on his weapon tightened. And what direction was that? Toward Jamie, of course. Ellis's smile widened. The living key to Sarah Reed's work. We just needed to confirm our suspicions about where she hid the formula. And now, Nathan asked, though he already knew the answer. Now you've served your purpose. The boy is all we need. Ellis raised his weapon, but Nathan was already moving. He shoved Ava aside and fired in the same motion, his bullet catching Ellis in the shoulder. The commander staggered but remained standing, returning fire with trained accuracy despite his injury. Nathan felt the impact before he heard the shot, a hot poker to his left side that stole his breath and sent him sprawling backward. Ava screamed his name, the sound strangely distant as shock began to set in. Ellis advanced, weapon trained on Nathan's prone form. Nothing personal, Reed, just cleaning up loose ends. Before he could fire again, the night erupted in a deafening roar as Ava emptied her magazine into Ellis's chest. The commander's expression registered surprise, then nothing at all as he collapsed onto the gravel road. Nathan! Ava was beside him instantly, hands pressing against the wound in his side. Stay with me. We need to get you to the extraction point. The pain was extraordinary, radiating outward from the entry wound with each heartbeat. Nathan had been wounded before in combat, but never this severely. His training told him what his body already knew: the bullet had caused significant internal damage. Jaime, he managed to gasp. Make sure he's safe. He is safe, Ava assured him, tears streaming down her face. Reyes has him, but he needs his father, Nathan. You need to stay awake. With Herculean effort, Nathan forced himself to focus. Help me up. Together, they staggered the remaining distance to their extraction vehicle. Ava helped Nathan into the passenger seat before taking the wheel, her hands leaving bloody prints on the steering column. As they drove away from the airfield, sirens became audible in the distance. The authorities were finally responding, too late to be of use, but in time to complicate their escape. We can't go to a hospital, Nathan said through gritted teeth. They'll be watching emergency rooms. I know someone, Ava replied, navigating the back roads with determined focus. A doctor who works with people in difficult situations. No questions asked. Nathan nodded weakly, the movement sending fresh waves of agony through his torso. He pressed his hand against the wound, feeling warm blood seeping between his fingers. Too much blood. Ava, he said quietly, if I don't make it, don't. She cut him off fiercely. Don't you dare. Jaime needs you. She hesitated. I need you too. The admission hung between them, unexpected and profound. Despite everything, the lies, the manipulation, the danger she had brought into his life, Nathan found himself believing her. Whatever had brought them together, whatever truths or deceptions had shaped their journey, they were now bound by something neither could fully articulate. Ellis, Nathan managed changing the subject. Was he telling the truth about leading us to Jamie? Ava's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I don't know. Some of what he said made sense. The evidence I found did seem convenient at times. But Sarah's formula, the genetic key in Jamie, that part is real, Ava confirmed. I verified it independently before I ever approached you. Sarah really did create a countermeasure and hide it where only someone who knew to look would find it. Nathan absorbed this, his tactical mind still functioning despite the pain and blood loss. So they still need Jamie. They'll keep coming. Not if we end this first, Ava said with quiet determination. Not if we expose everything so completely that no shadow remains for them to hide in. The road ahead blurred as Nathan's consciousness began to fade. The last thing he registered was Ava's voice, urgent and frightened, calling his name. Darkness claimed him. Nathan drifted in and out of awareness. Fragments of reality penetrated the fog. Bright lights, urgent voices, the sharp smell of antiseptic. Pain constant and throbbing anchored him to his body even as his mind struggled to make sense of his surroundings. Significant blood loss. Need more plasma. Keep him stabilized until... Time lost all meaning. Hours or days could have passed. Nathan couldn't tell. Eventually, the fog began to lift, replaced by a dull clarity that brought both relief and renewed concern. He was in a bedroom, not a hospital. Medical equipment surrounded the bed monitors, IV stands, oxygen tanks. A private care setup. Expensive, professional. Welcome back. Nathan turned his head slowly toward the voice. Ava sat in a chair beside the bed, dark circles under her eyes, suggesting she hadn't slept in some time. Jaime, Nathan's voice was a rasp, his throat dry from disuse. He's safe, Ava assured him, offering a cup of water with a straw. Rhea's got him to the safe house. He's been asking for you. Nathan sipped gratefully, the cool liquid soothing his parched throat. How long? 3 days. The bullet nicked your liver and caused significant internal bleeding. You've had 2 surgeries. She hesitated. It was close, Nathan. Very close. Memory returned in fragments, the airfield, Ellis's revelations, the gunshot. Ellis dead, Ava confirmed, along with most of his team. The authorities found quite a scene at the airfield. And the others, Hargrove, Westfield, in custody for now, but their influence runs deep. I've been monitoring chatter through my contacts. There's already movement to have charges reduced, evidence suppressed. Nathan absorbed this grimly. The conspiracy hadn't died with Ellis. The threat to Jaime remained. We need to end this, he said, attempting to sit up. Pain immediately lanced through his abdomen, forcing him back against the pillows. Careful, Ava cautioned. You're nowhere near healed. The doctor said at least 2 weeks before you can move around, and that's being optimistic. We don't have 2 weeks, Nathan argued. Every day gives them time to regroup to come after Jaime again. I know. Ava's expression was troubled. That's why I've been working while you recovered. Gathering everything we have, preparing to release it publicly. The dead man's switch you mentioned, she nodded. Similar concept, but more comprehensive. Every piece of evidence, every connection, every name, all packaged and ready to be sent to journalists, law enforcement agencies, and intelligence services worldwide. They'll try to discredit it, call it a hoax, a conspiracy theory. Not with the documentation we have, not with Sarah's research included. Ava leaned forward. That's why they've been so desperate to find her formula. It's not just a countermeasure, it's proof of the weapon's existence. Understanding dawned in Nathan's eyes. They can deny developing a targeted pathogen, but they can't explain away an antidote specifically designed to neutralize it. Exactly. Sarah didn't just create protection, she created undeniable evidence. A moment of silence passed as Nathan processed the implications. His wife, even dying, had found a way to fight back, to protect not just their son, but potentially countless others who might have been targeted. When can I see Jaime? He asked finally. Soon, Ava promised. Reyes has been bringing him for short visits while you were unconscious. He's doing remarkably well considering everything. He's a strong kid. Like his mother, Nathan said softly. Ava reached out hesitantly, her hand finding his. Like both his parents. The touch was unexpected but not unwelcome. Nathan's fingers curled around hers, drawing strength from the connection. Whatever complications existed between them, and there were many, they shared a common purpose now, a common enemy. So what's our next move? He asked. First you heal, Ava insisted. You're no good to Jaime if you tear your stitches and bleed out. And then we bring everything into the light. No more shadows for them to hide in. Before Nathan could respond, the bedroom door opened slightly. A small face peered around the edge, eyes widening at the sight of Nathan awake. Dad, Jaime burst into the room only to be caught gently by Ava before he could launch himself onto the bed. Careful, remember, your dad has a big owie, she reminded him. Jaime nodded solemnly before approaching the bed with exaggerated caution. Are you okay now? You've been sleeping forever. Nathan smiled genuine joy, breaking through the pain and worry. I'm getting better, buddy. Just need a little more time. Ava said you got shot by a bad guy, like in the movies. Something like that, Nathan agreed, shooting Ava a grateful look for the simplified explanation. But the bad guy can't hurt us anymore. Jaime climbed carefully onto the chair Ava had vacated, studying his father's pale face with concern beyond his years. Are there more bad guys? Is that why Mr. Reyes is still staying with us? Nathan hesitated, unwilling to lie, but equally unwilling to frighten his son further. There are some problems that we still need to fix, but you don't need to worry about that. My job is to keep you safe, and that's what I'm going to do. With Ava's help, Jamie added with the simple certainty of childhood. She said you're partners now. Nathan glanced at Ava, who shrugged slightly, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. That's right, he confirmed. We're partners. The declaration settled something between them, an acknowledgement of a bond forged in extraordinary circumstances. Not quite trust, not yet, but something equally powerful. A shared purpose. A commitment to see this through together. As Jaime chattered about his adventures with Reyes, he showed me how to do a proper push-up, Dad. Nathan's gaze met Ava's over the boy's head. In her eyes, he saw the same determination that burned in his own heart. They would end this for Jamie, for Sarah, for Thomas Reed, for the Kingsley family, for all those who had been silenced, no matter the cost. 2 weeks passed in a blur of painful recovery and careful planning. Nathan progressed from bed rest to cautious movement, his body slowly healing, even as his mind remained focused on the threat still looming over them. Ava had transformed one room of the safe house into an operations center, multiple computers, secure communications, surveillance feeds. Her resources seemed limitless, her determination matching Nathan's own. Reyes remained a security, his professional demeanor occasionally softening when interacting with Jaime. The boy had developed an admiration for the former Delta operator that might have made Nathan jealous under different circumstances. Instead, he felt only gratitude for the additional protection and positive male influence during his convalescence. On the 15th day after the airfield confrontation, Nathan joined Ava in the operations room, moving slowly but without the assistance he'd needed previously. You look better, she observed, glancing up from a document-covered desk. Feel better, he confirmed, lowering himself carefully into a chair. What's the status? Mixed news, Ava replies, pushing a tablet toward him. Hargrove was released yesterday. Insufficient evidence, according to the official statement. Nathan's jaw tightened. And Westfield? Still in custody, but his lawyers are making progress. The evidence from the raids is being questioned on procedural grounds. They're covering it up. Trying to, Ava agreed, but they're facing more resistance than they expected. Several whistleblowers have come forward independently, people from different departments who saw fragments of Chimera over the years. Not enough to break the case wide open, but enough to keep investigation active. Nathan scrolled through the news reports on the tablet. What about Ellis? Has his involvement been made public? Officially, Commander Ellis died in the line of duty during an operation gone wrong. His connection to Kingsley International has been buried. The systematic way the conspiracy was protecting itself didn't surprise Nathan, but it fueled his resolve. Then it's time to release everything. All the evidence all at once. Almost, Ava said, hesitation evident in her voice. There's something else you should see first. She turned to one of the computers, typing a series of commands that brought up a video feed. The screen showed a hospital room where an elderly man lay connected to various medical equipment. Who am I looking at? Nathan asked. Maxwell Kingsley. Nathan's head snapped up in shock. Your father, but he died in the plane crash. You said, I thought he did. Ava interrupted, her voice tight with emotion. Everyone did, but 3 days ago I received this. She played a video message, a brief encoded communication that contained coordinates and a single line of text. The phoenix rises from calculated ashes. It was a phrase my father and I use as a private code, Ava explained. Something only he would know. You're saying your father faked his death. Why, how? I don't have all the answers yet. The coordinates led to this private facility in Switzerland. I've been monitoring remotely, confirming his identity through medical records and staff communications. Nathan studied the figure on the screen, an emaciated man who bore little resemblance to the powerful industrialist whose face had appeared on business magazines for decades. Yet there was something in the set of his jaw, the shape of his brow, that echoed Ava's own features. If this is really Maxwell Kingsley, why reveal himself now? After letting you believe he was dead for 2 years. I think he's dying for real this time, Ava said softly. The medical charts indicate advanced stage pancreatic cancer. Months left at most, possibly weeks. Nathan's tactical mind immediately began calculating implications. This changes everything. If your father is alive, he knows things we don't, Ava finished for him. About Chimera, about the conspiracy, about all of it. We need to talk to him. That's why I booked us flights to Zurich. We leave tonight. Nathan frowned. Jaime comes with us, Ava stated firmly. Switzerland is safer than here right now. Reyes will accompany us as security. It could be a trap, Nathan warned. The message, the discovery, all designed to draw you out. I've considered that, Ava acknowledged, but I've verified the facility's legitimacy and the security protocols are exceptional. Besides, would you rather leave Jaime behind where Hargrove can reach him? She had a point. Keeping Jaime close under their direct protection was the safest option. All right, Nathan conceded, but we maintain maximum security. No advance notice, no electronic trail, and we release all the evidence before we go insurance in case something happens to us. Ava nodded agreement. I'll make the final preparations. As she turned back to her computer, Nathan studied her profile. Despite weeks of working together, of shared danger and tentative trust, Ava Kingsley remained in many ways an enigma. Her motives, her feelings, her true self hidden behind layers of protection built over a lifetime of wealth and privilege. Yet in this moment, he saw something rarely visible: vulnerability. The possibility that her father lived had cracked her carefully maintained composure, revealing the daughter beneath the crusader. Are you okay? He asked quietly. Ava's fingers stilled on the keyboard. I don't know, she admitted. For 2 years, I've carried the weight of my family's legacy alone. I've made peace with their deaths, built my life around exposing the truth about what happened to them. If my father has been alive all this time, you feel betrayed, Nathan supplied when she trailed off. Yes, and relieved, and furious, and hopeful. She looked at him, conflict evident in her eyes. Is that how you felt when you learned the truth about your father's death? Nathan considered this. Different, I think. I always suspected there was more to my father's suicide. Learning it was murder confirmed what I'd believed all along. But this, your father deliberately letting you think he was dead, that's another level of deception. There must have been a reason, Ava said, though uncertainty tinged her voice. My father could be many things: calculating, demanding, even ruthless in business, but he loved his family. He wouldn't have put us through that grief without cause. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Preparations moved quickly after that. Nathan packed the few belongings they'd accumulated during their weeks in hiding, while Ava finalized their travel arrangements. Private transportation, false identities, multiple security layers. Reyes handled the logistics of their movement, from safe house to airport planning, alternate routes, and contingencies. Jaime told only that they were taking a trip to visit someone important, approached the adventure with typical 7-year-old enthusiasm. Will we see the Alps? Can I try skiing? Maybe, buddy, Nathan answered, helping his son pack warm clothes. But this isn't exactly a vacation. We need to be extra careful. Remember the safety rules we practiced. Stay close, don't talk to strangers, use the code word if there's danger, Jaime recited dutifully. I remember, Dad. Nathan ruffled his hair affectionately. That's my boy. Just before their scheduled departure, Ava gathered them in the operations room for a final briefing. On the main screen was a countdown timer, 30 minutes until their evidence package would be automatically released to hundreds of recipients worldwide. Once this goes live, there's no turning back, she warned. Every major news organization, law enforcement agency, and intelligence service will receive documented proof of Project Chimera and the crimes committed to protect it. Good, Nathan said firmly. No more shadows. Ava nodded, finger hovering over the enter key that would confirm the timed release. For Sarah, for my family, for everyone they've hurt. She pressed the key, setting in motion events that would irreversibly expose decades of corruption and murder. The countdown continued its inexorable progress. Time to go, Reyes announced from the doorway, gear already loaded in their departure vehicle. As they prepared to leave, Nathan's phone, a secure device Ava had provided, chimed with an incoming message. He frowned, checking the screen. What is it? Ava asked, noting his expression. Nathan showed her the message from an unknown number. Hello, Nathan. I've been looking forward to meeting Sarah's husband. Safe travels to Switzerland. MK. Ava's face paled. That's impossible. No one knows our plans except us. Someone does, Nathan replied grimly, and they're already 2 steps ahead. The private jet soared above cloud cover, its luxurious interior, a stark contrast to the tension permeating the cabin. Jaime had fallen asleep an hour into the flight, his small form curled beneath a cashmere blanket oblivious to the adult's concerns. Nathan studied the mysterious text message for the 20th time, searching for clues in its 10 simple words. If this really is from your father, how did he know our plans? Our phone numbers? Ava shook her head, equally perplexed. My father had resources and connections I can only guess at. But to track us so specifically, to know about our trip when we only decided hours ago, it means we're compromised, Reyes stated flatly from his position near the cockpit. The security expert had swept the aircraft for surveillance devices before takeoff, but found nothing. Someone is either monitoring our communications or has a source very close to us. Or, Nathan suggested a new possibility forming in his mind. Maxwell Kingsley has been the one pulling strings all along. Ava looked up sharply. What do you mean, son? Think about it. The evidence you found that led you to me. Ellis claiming you were being manipulated into following breadcrumbs. Now this message demonstrating a knowledge of each other didn't have. Nathan leaned forward, eyes intense. What if your father didn't just fake his death? What if he's been orchestrating events from the shadows? The implication hung heavy in the air. Ava's expression cycled through disbelief, consideration, and reluctant acknowledgement. If that were true, she said slowly, it would mean everything, my investigation finding you, even the confrontation with Ellis, was part of some larger plan. A plan we still don't understand, Nathan added, which makes continuing to Switzerland potentially dangerous. We can't turn back now, Ava argued. If my father is alive, if he has been manipulating events, then he's the key to everything. We need answers only he can provide. Nathan glanced at his sleeping son, weighing risks against the need for truth. We proceed, but with extreme caution. No assumptions, no trust, not even in your father. Agreed, Ava said, though pain flickered briefly across her features at the thought of approaching her father as a potential enemy rather than the reunited family member she'd imagined. The remainder of the flight passed intense preparation. They reviewed facility layouts, security protocols, extraction plans if things went wrong. When they landed at a private airstrip outside Zurich, a nondescript sedan was waiting as arranged. Standard surveillance countermeasures, Reyes instructed, as they loaded their minimal luggage. Assume we're being watched from the moment we touch Swiss soil. The drive to the medical facility took them through picturesque countryside that belied the gravity of their mission. Jamie, now awake and pressed against the window, pointed excitedly at snow-capped mountains in the distance. Can we go there after we meet Ava's dad? We'll see, buddy, Nathan replied, exchanging a glance with Ava that acknowledged the impossibility of making such promises. The Helvetia Medical Institute appeared remarkably unremarkable from the outside, a modern building nestled against a forested hillside, its architecture blending contemporary medical functionality with subtle alpine influences. Nothing in its exterior suggested it catered exclusively to wealthy clients seeking absolute privacy. Security was another matter entirely. Their credentials were checked 3 times before they reached the main entrance, each verification more thorough than the last. Biometric scans, identity confirmation, appointment validation. Reyes remained in the background, alert for any sign of threat or deception. Finally, they were escorted to a private wing, accessible only by keycard and facial recognition. The attending physician, a distinguished Swiss doctor named Mueller, greeted them with professional courtesy. Ms. Kingsley, we've been expecting you. Your father's condition has stabilized somewhat since yesterday, but I must prepare you his appearance may be shocking compared to your memories. Ava nodded stiffly. I understand. How much does he know about our arrival? He requested notification the moment you entered Swiss airspace, Doctor. Mueller replied, Mueller replied, confirming Nathan's suspicions about Maxwell Kingsley's continued influence and monitoring capabilities. He's been quite insistent about speaking with you privately. We stay together, Nathan stated firmly. All of us. The doctor hesitated. Mr. Kingsley specifically requested. It's non-negotiable, Ava interrupted. Where my family goes, I go. That includes Nathan and Jamie. After a moment's consideration, Dr. Mueller acquiesced. Very well. Please follow me. The room they entered was more luxury suite than hospital chamber, though medical equipment maintained a significant presence. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered stunning mountain views, while tasteful furnishings suggested a high-end hotel rather than a medical facility. In a hospital bed positioned to capitalize on the panoramic vista lay Maxwell Kingsley, or what remained of him. Cancer had ravaged his once powerful frame, leaving behind a skeletal figure whose skin seemed stretched too tightly over prominent bones. Yet his eyes, when they opened at their entrance, burned with unchanged intensity. "Ava," he said, voice surprisingly strong despite his wasted appearance. "You look well." Ava stepped forward, emotions warring visibly on her face. "You're alive," she stated simply, neither accusation nor joy coloring the words. For the moment, Maxwell confirmed, a gaze shifting to Nathan and Jamie. "And you've brought the Reeds. Excellent." The casual familiarity sent a chill down Nathan's spine. "You know who we are." "Of course," Maxwell attempted to sit up straighter, wincing with the effort. "I've known about you since before Sarah's diagnosis. Your wife was quite remarkable, Mr. Reed. Brilliant and principled, a rare combination in our world." Nathan positioned himself slightly in front of Jamie, protective instincts flaring. "How are you connected to Project Chimera?" "To my wife's death." Maxwell's eyes narrowed slightly. "Direct like your father, Thomas never wasted time with pleasantries either." He gestured weakly toward chairs arranged near the bed. "Please sit. What I have to tell you will take some time, and my energy is limited." Reluctantly, they settled into the indicated seats, Hamie nestled protectively between Nathan and Ava. Reyes remained standing near the door, vigilant. "2 years ago," Maxwell began, "I discovered that certain elements within Kingsley International had corrupted my life's work. Project Chimera began as genuine medical research targeted genetic therapies for otherwise untreatable conditions. The military applications were secondary, defensive in nature." "That's not what the evidence shows," Ava challenged. "The documents I've found were selectively presented to lead you to specific conclusions," her father interrupted. "Hargrove and Westfield began weaponizing Chimera in secret around 2015 using compartmentalized research teams who didn't understand the full implications of their work." "Like Sarah," Nathan interjected. Maxwell nodded. "Dr. Reed was recruited for her expertise in genetic delivery systems. When she and her colleagues began noticing discrepancies, asking questions, Hargrove took preventative measures. They murdered her," Nathan stated flatly. "Gave her cancer with their own targeted pathogen." "Yes." Maxwell's gaze held genuine regret. "By the time I discovered what they'd done, it was too late to save her. But not too late to help her fight back." Ava leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "I provided resources, protected her research when she began developing a countermeasure. When she realized she wouldn't survive to complete it, I helped her secure what she'd accomplished." Maxwell's gaze shifted to Jamie, including her ingenious method of preserving the formula. Nathan instinctively placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "So you've known all along that Jamie carries the key?" "I suspected. Sarah never confirmed it directly, a final protection for her son, but I knew her well enough to recognize where she would hide something precious." "If you knew all this," Ava demanded, "why fake your death? Why let me believe my entire family was gone?" Pain flickered across Maxwell's gaunt features. "Because Hargrove had already moved against me. The plane crash wasn't an accident, but neither was it what they intended. They meant to kill everyone aboard, but I had suspicions and took precautions. Mom and Jeremy," Ava's voice cracked slightly, referring to her mother and brother, "I couldn't save them." Maxwell admitted, genuine grief evident in his sunken eyes. "The crash was unavoidable once in motion. I barely survived myself." "So you disappeared," Nathan surmised. "Let everyone think you were dead while you—" "What plotted revenge?" "I gathered evidence, built a case that couldn't be dismissed or covered up. But my condition deteriorated faster than anticipated." Maxwell gestured to his failing body. "Cancer, the natural kind, ironically. When it became clear I wouldn't live to complete my work, I needed someone who could." "Me," Ava said softly. "You," her father confirmed. "I left breadcrumbs knowing your determination and intelligence would follow them. I needed you to find Nathan and Jamie, to secure Sarah's formula, to assemble the final pieces." "You manipulated me," Ava accused, voice hardening. "Used my grief, my desire for justice to make me your unwitting agent." "I protected you," Maxwell countered. Had you known I was alive, had you contacted me directly, they would have killed you immediately. Your genuine grief, your apparent ignorance of the conspiracy's full scope bought you time. Nathan processed this extraordinary revelation, mind racing with implications. Ellis said we were being led, that our investigation was monitored and guided. Was that you too? Not entirely, Maxwell admitted. Hargrove and his associates were indeed watching, influencing parts of your journey. It became a chess match, my subtle guidance against their interference. Sometimes I won, sometimes they did. The airfield ambush. Their move. I didn't anticipate Ellis's betrayal or their decision to target Jamie directly. Jamie, who had been listening quietly throughout this exchange, suddenly spoke up. You're Ava's dad, the one everyone thought was dead. Maxwell's severe expression softened slightly as he regarded the child. Yes, young man, I'm Ava's father. My dad thought he lost his dad too, Jamie observed with childlike directness. It made him really sad for a long time. Ava was sad about you too. A complex emotion passed across Maxwell's face, regret mingled with something like shame. Sometimes, he said carefully, adults make difficult choices trying to protect the people they love. Those choices aren't always the right ones. Like when Dad says I can't have ice cream before dinner, even though I want it, Jamie asked seriously. Despite the tension, a small smile tugged at Maxwell's lips. Something like that, though, with considerably higher stakes. Nathan refocused the conversation. You said you needed us to assemble the final pieces. What exactly did you mean? The evidence you've gathered combined with what I've compiled creates an irrefutable case against everyone involved in the corruption of Project Chimera and the subsequent crimes. But the most crucial element is Sarah's formula proof positive of the weaponized pathogen's existence. We've already released everything we have, Ava informed him. A comprehensive data package went public approximately, she checked her watch, 6 hours ago. Maxwell nodded approvingly. Good. But without the formula, they can still deny the most serious allegations. They'll claim the evidence was fabricated, that Chimera was always legitimate medical research. So you need Jamie, Nathan concluded, tension evident in his posture, to extract the genetic key. Not exactly, Maxwell corrected. Modern genetic sequencing can identify the markers Sarah used without any invasive procedures. A simple cheek swab would suffice. But that's not why I asked you to come. Then why? Ava demanded. Because Hargrove and his associates aren't finished, Maxwell replied grimly. Your evidence release has forced their hand, but they prepared for this contingency. Within 24 hours, they'll initiate what they call Protocol Omega deployment of the weaponized pathogen against specific targets globally. Stunned silence followed this revelation. How do you know this? Nathan finally asked. I still have sources within Kingsley International. Loyal people who've been feeding me information. Maxwell's expression darkened. The targeted pathogen has been refined beyond anything in your evidence. It can now be programmed for incredibly specific genetic profiles, individuals, families, small populations. And the targets, Ava pressed, political leaders opposed to their interests, whistleblowers, journalists investigating some. Maxwell paused significantly. And anyone connected to exposing Project Chimera, including all of you. The implications were staggering, not just murder, but genocide on a potentially global scale. How do we stop them? Nathan demanded. With Sarah's formula, Maxwell answered simply, properly deployed, it doesn't just protect against the pathogen, it neutralizes it completely, renders it inert on contact. But we'd need to produce and distribute it worldwide in less than 24 hours. Ava objected. That's impossible. Not with the resources I've assembled, her father countered. I've spent the last 2 years preparing for this possibility. Production facilities standing by, distribution networks in place, all waiting for the final component, the formula itself. Nathan exchanged glances with Ava, mutual understanding passing between them. Whatever Maxwell Kingsley's manipulations, whatever his culpability in bringing them to this point, the threat was real and immediate. A cheek swab, Nathan confirmed, looking at his son. Nothing more invasive than that. Maxwell nodded. The genetic markers are in every cell, simple and painless. Nathan knelt before Jamie, meeting his son's eyes. Buddy, do you remember how Mommy was a scientist who helped sick people? Jamie nodded solemnly. She made medicine in her laboratory. She showed me pictures. That's right. And it turns out Mommy left a special medicine recipe that can help a lot of people now. But the recipe is kind of hidden. The doctors need to use a special cotton swab on the inside of your cheek to find it. Will it hurt? Jamie asked the question both childlike and heartbreakingly mature. Not at all, Nathan promised. It's just like cleaning your teeth, but even easier. Jamie considered this, then nodded. Okay, if it helps people like Mommy wanted. Nathan pulled his son into a gentle embrace, throat tight with emotion. You're the bravest kid I know. Mueller was summoned to perform the collection, the procedure indeed proving quick and painless. Jaime seemed almost disappointed by its simplicity, having perhaps expected something more dramatic, given the adults' serious discussions. That's it, he asked as the doctor labeled the sample. That's it, Dr. Mueller confirmed with a gentle smile. You've done very well. As the doctor departed with the precious sample, Maxwell addressed Nathan directly. Sarah would be proud of both of you. Nathan acknowledged this with a nod, emotions too complex for words. How quickly can you produce and distribute the countermeasure? Ava asked, focusing on practicalities. The synthesis process takes approximately 6 hours once we have the formula, Maxwell replied. Distribution to primary targets, those most immediately threatened, another 4 to 6. Wider distribution will take longer, but the most vulnerable will be protected before Protocol Omega can be fully implemented. And Hargrove Westfield. The others involved. Your evidence release has already set certain wheels in motion. Law enforcement in multiple countries is moving against known associates. But the core group, they'll be harder to touch. Not if we know where they'll... Nathan interjected an idea forming. If they're initiating this Protocol Omega, they must have a command center, a place from which to coordinate. Maxwell's eyes gleamed with approval. Indeed. According to my intelligence, they're gathering at a secure facility in the Austrian Alps, ostensibly for an emergency board meeting. Then that's where we go, Nathan stated. While your people produce the countermeasure, we take the fight directly to them. Nathan, Ava began, concern evident in her voice. You're still recovering from a gunshot wound. And Jamie stays here, Nathan finished firmly, under guard and protected by the countermeasure as soon as it's available. Maxwell nodded. I can ensure his safety here. This facility has security measures that would impress even your military friend by the door. Reyes, who had remained silent throughout the exchange, spoke up. I'll go with Reed and Ms. Kingsley, additional tactical support. Decision-made preparations began immediately, while Maxwell's scientists worked to extract and synthesize Sarah's formula from Jamie's genetic material. Nathan, Ava, and Reyes planned their assault on the Alpine facility. 6 hours later, they gathered for a final briefing. Maxwell, despite his weakness, had insisted on being present, propped up in a wheelchair, and connected to portable medical equipment. The countermeasure synthesis was successful, he reported. Production is underway. Initial doses have already been administered to essential personnel, including Jamie and his security detail. And us, Nathan asked. Maxwell gestured to Dr. Mueller, who approached with 3 auto-injectors. The countermeasure in its most concentrated form. 1 injection provides complete protection. They each received the injection, a momentary sting, followed by a strange warming sensation as Sarah's creation entered their bloodstreams, her final gift now literally flowing through Nathan's veins. The Austrian facility is located here, Maxwell continued, indicating a point on a digital map. Built into the mountainside ostensibly as a corporate retreat and research center. In reality, a fortress with state-of-the-art security and defensive capabilities. Weaknesses, Reyes inquired professionally. 2 potential entry points beyond the main access, Maxwell highlighted areas on the schematic. A maintenance tunnel for the environmental systems and a helipad on the roof, both heavily secured but less so than the main entrance. Roof access gives us the high ground, Nathan observed. If we can insert there, we control the vertical approach. I've arranged transportation that will get you within insertion range, Maxwell confirmed. After that, it's in your hands. As the briefing concluded, Nathan took a moment to say goodbye to Jamie, who would remain under protection at the medical facility. I need you to be good for the doctors, okay, buddy? Nathan said, kneeling despite the protest from his healing wound. I'll be back as soon as I can. You're going to stop the bad guys? Jamie asked, his understanding of the situation simplified but essentially accurate. That's right, just like we talked about. Hammy nodded solemnly. Be careful, Dad, and make sure Ava is careful too. I will. Nathan pulled his son into a tight embrace, memorizing the feel of him, the smell of his hair, the sound of his breathing, just in case. Ava, meanwhile, had a final private conversation with her father. Why didn't you tell me you were alive? She asked the question that had burned within her since discovering his survival. Maxwell's gaunt face showed genuine regret. Because I knew you, Ava. If you'd known I was alive, you would have come to me immediately publicly, and they would have killed you without hesitation. You could have found another way. Perhaps, he acknowledged, but dying gave me freedom to maneuver to prepare without scrutiny. And your genuine grief protected you from suspicion longer than any deception could have. Ava studied the man who had shaped her life in so many ways, his brilliance, his calculation, his uncompromising pursuit of his goals, qualities she had inherited for better or worse. If we succeed, she said finally, if we survive this, we need to have a longer conversation about trust and family. I would welcome that, Maxwell replied, reaching for her hand. More than you know. The journey to the Austrian facility took just under 2 hours by helicopter, the majestic alpine landscape passing beneath them as they approached their target. Nathan, Ava, and Reyes reviewed their equipment one final time, weapons, communications, specialized gear for mountain insertion. Primary objective is to prevent Protocol Omega's activation, Nathan reminded them. Secondary is apprehension of the principals. We go in quiet, locate the command center, and shut it down. And if they've already initiated the protocol, Ava asked the question they had all been avoiding, then we transmit the kill codes Maxwell provided, Reyes answered grimly. But we need direct access to their system to do it. As the helicopter approached the insertion point, a ridge overlooking the facility, Nathan found himself thinking of Sarah, of her courage in the face of certain death, of her brilliance in creating the countermeasure that might now save countless lives, of the love that had led her to protect their son in such an extraordinary way. Whatever happened in the next few hours, her legacy would be completed. The weapon created in corruption would be neutralized by the antidote born of compassion. The people who had taken her from him would face justice. Their son would be safe. 2-minute warning, the pilot announced. Prepare for insertion. Nathan checked his harness one final time, then met Ava's gaze. In her eyes, he saw the same determination that burned in his own heart. Whatever complications existed between them, trust damaged by revelations, connection forged in shared danger, they were united in this moment by a common purpose. For Sarah, he said quietly. For everyone they've hurt, she added. Together they moved to the helicopter's open door. The alpine night spread before them, their target illuminated in the distance. The wind whipped around them, cold and clarifying. It was time to end this. The assault on the alpine facility unfolded with precision, born of desperate necessity. Their insertion via the helipad succeeded largely due to surprise. The facility's defenders had expected attack from below, not from above. Nathan, Ava, and Reyes moved through the upper levels, systematically neutralizing resistance with non-lethal methods where possible. Command center should be 2 levels down, Reyes reported, consulting the schematic Maxwell had provided. They encountered increasingly sophisticated security measures as they descended: biometric scanners, armed guards, reinforced doors. Each obstacle required improvisation and courage to overcome, but their determination never wavered. Finally, they reached their objective, a sealed room protected by multiple security layers. Through observation windows, they could see what appeared to be the command center, with several figures gathered around a central console. Hargrove and Westfield, Ava confirmed, recognizing the men, despite only having seen their photographs previously. And that's Senator Pierce. He was supposed to be in custody. Influence runs deep, Nathan observed grimly. Ready. At their signal, Reyes triggered the EMP device they'd brought specifically for this purpose. The localized electromagnetic pulse disabled electronic security, temporarily allowing them to breach the command center in the resulting confusion. Nobody move, Nathan ordered as they entered, weapons trained on the conspirators. For a moment, it seemed they'd achieved complete surprise. Then Hargrove's shocked expression morphed into something like satisfaction. Too late, he said, pressing a final key on the console before raising his hands. Protocol Omega is already initiating. In 15 minutes, deployment begin worldwide. Shut it down, Ava demanded, moving toward the console. Impossible, Westfield stated coolly. The system is now autonomous. Even we couldn't stop it if we wanted to. Nathan approached the terminal, studying the displays. Multiple countdown timers showed the status of various deployment systems around the globe, all proceeding as Hargrove had claimed. The kill codes, he said to Reyes, who produced the data chip Maxwell had provided. Won't work, Pierce interjected, speaking for the first time. We changed the security protocols after detecting Maxwell's survival. Your codes are obsolete. Nathan exchanged glances with Ava, the gravity of their situation becoming clear. If they couldn't stop the deployment, millions could die, targeted individuals, families, entire communities determined to be threats to the conspiracy's interests. There has to be a way, Ava insisted, refusing to accept defeat. As if in answer to her determination, an unexpected voice emerged from the command center's communication system. There is, Maxwell Kingsley announced, his image appearing on the main display screen. But you'll need to give me remote access to the system. Hargrove's expression contorted with fury. Kingsley still interfering from beyond the grave. Not quite beyond Victor, Maxwell replied coolly. Just more patient than you anticipated. While their captives watched in impotent rage, Nathan and Ava established the connection Maxwell needed, following his precise instructions to bypass security protocols. What are you doing? Nathan asked as Maxwell's fingers flew across keys at his end, lines of code flooding the screen. Something I prepared for years ago, Maxwell explained, not pausing in his work. A back door built into the original Chimera architecture. They changed the security codes but couldn't eliminate the fundamental access point without rebuilding the entire system. You planned for this specific scenario? Ava asked, impressed, despite herself, by her father's foresight. I planned for my own creations being turned against me, Maxwell corrected. A lesson more innovators should learn. The countdown timers continued their inexorable progress, 12 minutes remaining, then 11, then 10. Maxwell's intervention seemed to have no effect. It's not working, Nathan observed tensely. Patience, Mr. Reed, Maxwell replied, focus unwavering. Complex systems require precise solutions. At the 8-minute mark, something changed. The deployment indicators began flashing warning signals. Status messages shifted from proceeding to error. Configuration mismatch. What's happening? Hargrove demanded, forgetting momentarily that he was a captive. I'm replacing the targeting parameters with nonsense data, Maxwell explained with evident satisfaction. The delivery systems require exact genetic profiles to function. Without them, they default to safety protocols and self-neutralization. One by one, the deployment systems around the world began shutting down their precious, deadly payloads, rendered harmless by Maxwell's intervention. No. Westfield lunged toward the console, only to be intercepted by Reyes's precise takedown. It's over, Nathan stated, watching as the final timer froze and then disappeared from the screen. Protocol Omega has failed. In the aftermath, international authorities descended on the facility, taking custody of Hargrove, Westfield, Pierce, and their associates. The evidence package Ava had released, combined with the facility's own records and the conspirators caught literally in the act of attempted mass murder, created an airtight case that not even their considerable influence could overcome. Nathan, Ava, and Reyes returned to Switzerland, their mission accomplished, but the emotional reckoning just beginning. They found Hamey safe and happy, having been treated like a prince by the medical staff in their absence. Maxwell Kingsley lived just long enough to see justice done. 2 weeks after the Austrian operation, with the principal conspirators facing international tribunals and Project Chimera permanently dismantled, he summoned Nathan and Ava to his room for a final conversation. Sarah's countermeasure has been distributed to every major medical facility worldwide. He informed them, voice weakening, but satisfaction evident. Her legacy is secure, as is yours, Mr. Reed. Mine, Nathan questioned. You completed what your father began 15 years ago. Thomas would be proud of the man you've become. Nathan accepted this with a nod. Complex emotions, grief, pride, resolution passing through him. What happens now? Ava asked, holding her father's increasingly frail hand. Kingsley International will need new leadership, Maxwell replied. Someone with the vision to transform a company built on weapons and power into something that truly serves humanity. His gaze fixed meaningfully on his daughter. I'm not sure I'm the right person for that, Ava admitted. After everything that's happened, you're exactly the right person, her father contradicted gently. You've seen both the best and worst of what power can do. You understand the responsibility in ways few ever could. 3 days later, Maxwell Kingsley passed peacefully in his sleep, his life's work both destroyed and redeemed in its final chapter. At the private memorial service, attended only by Ava, Nathan, Jamie, and a handful of loyal staff, Nathan found himself reflecting on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this point. A chance encounter in a diner that wasn't chance at all. A conspiracy spanning decades. Two families destroyed and partially rebuilt through shared trauma and purpose. "What will you do now?" he asked Ava as they stood watching Jamie place flowers on Maxwell's grave. "Take up my father's challenge, I think," she replied after a moment's consideration. "Rebuild Kingsley International into something worthy of Sarah's work. Something that helps rather than harms." She glanced at him sidelong. "What about you?" "Focus on being Jamie's father," Nathan said simply. "He's lost enough time to this conspiracy. We both have." Silence fell between them, comfortable yet weighted with unspoken possibilities. "You could stay," Ava suggested carefully. "Both of you. There's more than enough room at the estate, and I could use someone with your perspective as I restructure the company." Nathan considered this unexpected offer. "Are you asking as a potential employer or as something else?" "Both, maybe." Ava's usual confidence faltered slightly. "I know our beginning was complicated, built on manipulation and half-truths. But what came after, what we built together, facing Ellis, fighting for Jami, stopping Protocol Omega, that was real." "Yes," Nathan agreed, "it was. So maybe we could see what else might be real between us, given time and honesty." Nathan looked toward Jamie, who had moved from the grave to examine a nearby butterfly with typical childlike wonder. Despite everything, the danger, the revelations, the losses, his son had emerged resilient and hopeful. Perhaps they all could. "I think," Nathan said carefully, "that Hammy would enjoy spending some time in Switzerland. And I admit I'm curious to see what Kingsley International might become under new management." Ava's smile was tentative but genuine. "Partners, then?" "At least to start." Nathan nodded, extending his hand to seal the agreement. When Ava took it, he felt something shift between them. The beginning of trust rebuilt on stronger foundations. "Partners," he confirmed. As they walked together toward Jamie, Nathan felt Sarah's presence not as a ghost or supernatural force, but as the enduring impact of her life and love. She had protected their son in death as fiercely as in life, had left behind a legacy that saved countless lives, had connected him to a future he couldn't have imagined. Whatever came next, whatever relationship might develop between him and Ava, whatever challenges arose in transforming Kingsley International, whatever normal parenting struggles awaited with Jamie, they would face it together. Not as victims of conspiracy or pawns in someone else's game, but as architects of their own destiny. The single dad and the billionaire. An unlikely partnership formed in danger, tested by betrayal, and ultimately forged into something neither could have anticipated, but both now welcomed. A new family born from the ashes of the old. A future built on truth rather than deception. A legacy of protection rather than destruction. It was enough. It was everything.